Hello, World Wide Web. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Bridging the Gap podcast. Today I've got a special guest on, a good friend of mine. We met a few years ago at the Banco Nomad Fest where we were both volunteering. He's doing some really amazing things. Really appreciate having him in my circle. He's the founder with his partner of a expedition company called Global Convoy, and I just learned that they've done 10 trips before the one we're about to dive into, but it's super interesting to hear his tale of buying a school bus, retrofitting it, putting a bunch of digital nomads, and doing the Pan-AM Highway, which was quite an endeavor. Really happy to have him as the first real kind of conversation on this podcast. I hope to have many more. This podcast is kind of about digital nomadism, finding your ikigai, implementing process through Kaizen, learning how to chase your dreams and become the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Cool, man. Right,
So how you doing, man? How you doing? Where are you at?
Good. So I'm back in England at the moment. We're
Nice.
we're gonna keep moving around Europe for a little bit, and then eventually get back to Bulgaria, which is
Mm-hmm.
excited for.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just basically it was about 3 months ago now that we finished the Pan American trip with the bus, and went from Prudhoe Bay in Alaska down to Ushuaia in Argentina,
That's wicked.
and yeah, just kind of been recovering from
Yeah.
from the trip since
From the vacation. It's like a super
yeah,
active. It's an
yeah,
adventure. It's an adventure. I mean,
yeah,
you could call it work, but it was like it's like 24/7 work, right? It's like you never
yeah,
have
yeah, definitely.
downtime.
Yeah,
I mean, you
it,
probably
there's
do
a
if you
lot
found
going
a
on.
beach
So
every once in a while, but I assume you
yeah,
guys found some cool places to hang out along the way.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, there's so many incredible, gorgeous locations, and then also kind of finish off, in Patagonia and Torres del Fuego, like, some of the most gorgeous places on
Oh
earth.
man,
So
I haven't been
wasn't
there
wasn't
yet.
a bad place to finish for sure. Like,
It's on the to-do list.
yeah, yeah.
My farthest south is uh there's a what's the Temuco? Temuco, Chile. Did you do Chile side or Argentina side?
Yeah, we did. So we did we went into so we went down to Argentina and Ushuaia, but then so we didn't
Hmm.
go down to the south of Chile.
Hmm. It's
We
a
came
little like
through.
it's a little scattered on the Chile side. There's lots of
Yeah,
islands and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So well, yeah, we had to enter the border like two different times to
Yeah.
get down to Ushuaia,
Did you
like to
go
leave Chile
to
and come back in. But
Mendoza? Through
uh,
Mendoza? No?
it sounds really familiar, but it's not.
Mendoza's like it's on the Argentina side. It's a wine region, but there's kind of like a big crossing there on the southern
No,
side
I
of
don't.
the
I don't think so. We basically went into we followed Chile as far down south as we could go before basically all of the Patagonia mountain range
Hmm.
blocks you off. Popped back into Argentina, drove down to like El Calafate and a couple of other famous areas with like huge glaciers and things, and then pop back in towards the bottom of Chile, where it starts getting kind of puzzle pieces in between Chile and Argentina.
Hmm.
Went as far as we could, cross back into Argentina, and then to Ushuaia.
Sweet man. Well, let's start in Alaska. Where in Alaska did you start?
So I guess so. With the bus itself, the bus came from Minnesota. So we bought
Okay.
the bus in Minnesota and like did everything up. We were really lucky. We had a great friend that was down there. His family owned a shop, and basically he was able to be our man on the ground. Everything was originally registered in his name
Okay.
because I like yeah we
You
didn't have
guys,
any kind of place that was there.
yeah, you guys have been mobile for how long now?
Yeah,
Years
exactly.
probably.
Well, that was the big issue is just having things actually registered somewhere.
Hmm.
But anyways, yeah, so he took care of all the paperwork side of everything and got us the bus, and then we did like an inaugural trip across the US basically from Chicago to Vegas to make sure
The bus was
it
good.
wasn't gonna yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't gonna blow up, which was really important that we did that because the transmission blew out.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, so that was a huge thing, but we were really lucky. I mean, we managed to find. I mean, we had a support car with us. It was a Chevy Malibu, basically
Hmm.
following behind to make sure everything was all good.
Hmm.
And when we lost the transmission, we were really lucky. We found a guy who was selling an old used one, about a day's drive away, uh, for $700, and then we had some guys install it for about 1,500, which for us was a crackerjack deal. Because I mean, when you work on big rigs that huge, I mean,
Yeah.
2 grand's like nothing. It's like
Yeah.
$20.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
we got really lucky
Uh-huh.
with the fix up, but we had a few more bumps with like little things and the computer not being plugged in on the computer's the transmission's brain and other things like that. But after that, everything was working and fluid, and so that's when we took it up to Alaska. We picked up our next crew of people in Anchorage, and then we made up the Dalton Highway. Ice Road Truckers.
Yeah. I
So that's
haven't
where they
watched
filmed
it,
it.
but I know it.
I'm pretty sure it's one of those Discovery Channel shows where it's like
Yeah.
more commercials than it is show. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's where they film Maestro Truckers in the winter. We went in the summer, but it was still super epic to go up there, and that was the farthest north that you can go driving wise in the America by road. Um, and so yeah, did that
Sorry,
and
where exactly?
Prudhoe Bay. So you can basically, that's the farthest north you can drive. It's really annoying because you can't physically actually drive up to the water line because there's a huge
Yeah.
oil refinery that's in the way, and that's the
Okay.
whole reason why the road is there, is because of this oil refinery that's up there. But they will take you to the water. So we went and jumped into the ocean just to say we swam in the Arctic
Yeah.
Ocean and all that kind of stuff,
Cool.
and then
Did
saved
you
a
go into
bottle of
you
it.
did you go into the Yukon then or into
Yeah, yeah,
Canada?
yeah. So
Okay.
we did the Dalton down. So that was the farthest north we could go for the US. Drove down, did the Yukon, which I'm in love, man. Like I gotta
Yeah.
make it back there as soon as possible.
Sweet.
Like it was just like going, yeah, just in and out. Like it was absolutely phenomenal, and that was actually some of my favorite parts of the trip. Mostly because
Really?
when we were in Alaska, we had all the mosquitoes. I mean, Alaska was still gorgeous and really amazing, but when we were in Yukon, we didn't have half as many mosquitoes. But I mean,
Okay.
just the campgrounds and everywhere that we were able to go every single night. We had this awesome campground out in the middle of nowhere. It was
Yeah.
gorgeous. I mean, we weren't going too far off the beaten trek, but I mean, yeah, we were still dirt roading it for a large portion. But then we stop off and go to these kind of government set up campgrounds for the
Mhm.
area, and they had really, really nice drop
Yeah.
toilets, and I mean, for
Oh,
us, it
yeah.
was class, like
No, they're nice. Canada Parks is a great organization, like they're, we you did you have to pay for to stay there or
some of
yeah,
them, yeah, some of them were
yeah,
paid for. The ones that were donation based, we always threw them a few,
yeah.
because we had like 8 people, or when we were coming down, we had like more like 10, 12 people.
Okay.
So we're all paying for this one. We're all paying nothing, a
Yeah, it's
couple
a
bucks
couple
for
bucks each.
campsite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great for us, and then some of them, they even supplied wood, which was
Oh, really?
insane. Yeah, it was so awesome to show up. So that we were just like, "Yeah, man,"
We'll take it.
everybody throw
Yeah.
in 3 to $5 and in the donation bin, and so, yeah, we loved it. That was
Mhm.
yeah, one of the shining points on the trip for me,
Cool.
really was Yukon, going through, and
And
then,
that's crazy that it was right at the start. I mean, how many countries did you hit total? It's got to be a over a
16.
dozen, 16. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. I haven't been up there myself yet, but I have some friends who are from the Yukon and they always want to go back, so you got to assume that it's it's
It's
nice.
one of those. I mean, it is a bitch to get to. It takes forever to get up there.
Yeah.
So I can see why it's tough, but like, yeah, it was definitely one of the places. I mean, everywhere we went was really amazing. That every place has its merits, but I
Totally.
think that's one of the biggest ones that stuck out to me throughout the trip.
One cool thing about Canadian parks that you might not think of unless somebody tells you, is that there's a lot of parks that actually are no longer being managed by the government, by the Canada Parks. So there's actually a list of Canada parks that are not on the Canada Parks site, and
Oh,
there's
okay.
other places that list them, and so you can go to those for free, and they have kind of all of the amenities. They don't get taken care of unless there's like some local organizations who are doing that kind of work, but there
Yeah.
are tons of Canadian like formerly Canada Parks run spaces. They're still like they're still parks at the end of the day, but yeah, you can go to them for free.
Yeah.
It's
No,
good
that's
to
right.
know.
Yeah, and then we may have stumbled upon a few of them because we were using like iOverlander
Yes,
and like
exactly. That's how you
Surfernite
find
and like
them. Right, right, right.
other things like that. Yeah, so I imagine we may have stumbled upon one, but yeah, I mean everyone that we went to, there wasn't a single one where it was like covered in trash and it was just
Yeah. Oh no,
garbage or
people
whatever.
people are super like pack it in, pack
Yeah,
it out, and
yeah,
what's the
definitely. That
thing?
was cool.
Take only pictures, leave only footprints,
Yeah.
and oh no, shoot only pictures, leave only footprints, and take only memories. Cool, man. So what was next after you dipped into BC then? You got into the Trans Canada?
Yeah, yeah. So we dipped in BC, went down to Vancouver, and then yeah, basically did follow the Trans Canada down. As we were doing the trip, we were trying because we're going to be doing the whole Pan American. We obviously wanted to do a lot of research for it, so we started diving into a couple different books. There's two different books that we really fell in love with, but the one that I'll talk about a little bit is an expedition that was run by a guy named
Arian.
Sylvan C. Richardson,
Oh, okay.
and he did like one of the first Pan American trips before the road was built back in like the
Mm-hmm.
40s.
Mm-hmm.
And he also drove up to Alaska like after his like inaugural trip to kind of go see the Alaskan, the Alaskan Highway or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really interesting because we went and we spoke with a lot of Canadians, and I was talking to them about the Pan Am, but every single time they would kind of stop me. They'd be like, "Why are you calling it the Pan Am? It's the Alaskan Highway. Like, what are you, it's the Trans Canadian. What are you talking about? Like,
It's just
they were just
their
so weird." I was
scope is short.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to say that, but it was interesting because everywhere we went, like they would look at the road differently, and to
Yeah.
them, that's what it really represents. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't so, they didn't really think about the fact that it connects them to Panama,
Yeah, exactly.
directly. It's like one
Yeah.
one road, you just get on and you stay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought it was really cool and unique. Like they were kind of coming back with their own culture and more about that kind of stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
but anyway, yeah. So we were following this guy's old route map, kind of going through it,
Yeah.
um, and trying to kind of hit on a lot of the what was happening with the transformation of the Pan American Highway as a whole, and like especially during the war, like how much that affected the Yukon, how much it affected BC, the US having being able to use that as a route,
Mm-hmm.
was really cool to kind of like deep dive and look into and just kind of mirror a little bit because there's some couple of old footage videos, old like military videos we found, and then you can find the same spot on the road today,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like totally unrecognizable. It's like
Yeah.
some points it's like a or a 5-lane highway kind of thing,
Yeah.
and yeah. But anyways, yeah. So we did that, and then basically blasted down the west coast of the U.S. Just we were figuring that was going to be the most expensive part of the trip, so we were just
Yeah.
kind of trying to get through as quickly as
Uh-huh.
possible.
Did you run into
And then
anything unexpected while you were still in the Canada and US portion? Like what?
not really, honestly. Like everything went super smoothly. Like
Yeah.
mechanically, we were great. I mean, the biggest challenge for us, like mechanically with the bus, was the Dalton because it was all washboard roads.
Mm-hmm.
So like every nut and bolt was starting to come out.
Oh God.
We had the exhaust must have fallen off at least
Mm-hmm.
like 12 times. I had to keep doing it. Eventually, we found like an old coffee can. We basically just bolted that and clipped,
Okay.
zip tied it down to not zip tied, but metal ties
Yeah, yeah.
to make that work. And it actually the biggest damage it did was the main power cable that goes to the engine, massive engine, C7 Caterpillar, huge tractor engine. It's
Yeah.
got this huge power cable that goes onto there, and it's held on by a piece of copper, and that had literally sheared off
Oh
because it
God.
was so violently shaking the whole time that
Yeah.
it just developed these little hairline cracks, and then
Just
eventually
sawed
just
through it.
completely broke off. So one morning we went to go turn the bus on and we had 0 power and
Oh no.
that was the craziest thing.
Did you
We
have to
but
replace
yeah,
it
that was
or you took it to a
yeah,
shop?
we yeah, just went to an AutoZone. Went to an
Uh,
AutoZone and just I just
nice.
showed him. I was like, "You guys got anything that's like remotely like this?"
Oh
For
yeah,
like
we
maybe
got that.
afford 350 or something, and yeah, they
Yeah,
had it, and the guys
sweet.
there were super cool. They,
Well,
we were kind of interesting then, so they helped
I
us out.
I bet that parts for something like that are pretty like all over the place, you know?
Yeah, well, some of them are like specialized, but then other ones basically you just replace them for any big trucks. I think it
Yeah,
would be a different story if we were like in Europe or somewhere, but because we're in the Americas, we're used to having big trucks anyway.
yeah,
So although it's not made for a trailer tractor, tractor trailer whatever,
yeah.
uh, you can find stuff for like a big Chevy or Ford or whatever
Hmm.
to kind of replace it.
It would just make sense. What about in the US? Did you find any gems for places to stop?
Well, so for me, like, because California's kind of my home turf, so it was
Yeah.
really fun for me because I got to kind of show it
You got
off
to
a
show
little bit to
everybody,
some
yeah,
friends.
your favorite
We did like
spots.
the northern portion of the California one going down the coast, which of course is gorgeous and really
Yeah, the
phenomenal.
redwood.
And
Hmm.
we're an international crew, so we had some people from the UK, Lithuania, Belgium. We had an Israeli
Hmm.
guy.
Sweet.
Just a big collective of people from around the world. So it
Nice.
was really cool for me to be able to take them down and show them like the best of California. We
Amazing.
we crossed over to through Tahoe to the east side of California, drove down the 395, which I feel like is kind of a gem that not many people know about. That's part of my favorite. That's one of my favorite parts about California is the east side. Driving down there, you get to drive on the other side of the Sierras. You get to go to all these beautiful mountain lakes. It's just phenomenal. And then also you get a lot of BLM camping, so you get a lot of wild camping
Hmm.
up there, which again, costs maybe 20 to 30 bucks a night, if not free.
Yeah,
And you get to see the Milky Way every night
yeah.
type type deal. So
Did you
yeah, if
see
there's
the?
any gem, I would say that would be it.
Yeah, you got a little bit of a bias there.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you have any like Northern Lights nights while you were in Canada still?
No, when we were in Canada, we didn't really. We thought maybe we got some. We tried doing some long exposures. I just don't think we were there at the right time of the
Yeah.
season. We were just there. We were
When
there
were
in.
you there? When did you start again?
So we started August 1st.
Hmm.
So August 1st is where we started from Anchorage, and then
Cool.
we were in California by the 25th. So we were moving pretty fast.
Yeah.
So basically driving at least 4 hours a day or something like that,
Okay. Cool.
depending on how it went. So
And you had 10, 12 people the whole way. Like how did you guys handle did you have different people coming in and out? Like what was the
yeah,
way you
yeah, because
structured it?
obviously, so like we planned it out to be basically the quickest we knew we could possibly do the trip would be 7 months. So we were giving ourselves about to do the entirety of the Pan Am. So we were shooting for 7 months, preferably, but being more realistic, understanding that it could take
Take
more
longer.
time
Yeah.
to kind of go along with everything. So the way that we kind of threw it out towards people was, obviously it's easier for us to organize things if they're going to be there longer, but not everybody has the ability to just take almost a year,
7, yes. Yeah.
off from work or their life or
Totally.
whatever.
Hmm.
So we did have some people who would come in for like a month, hop out. Some people come for like 3 months, hop out. So on and so forth.
Hmm.
But we were trying to make it. We wanted to have a solid team because
Hmm.
obviously being a bus and we're having to feed ourselves and set up camp and whatnot. We wanted to really treat it more like a ship. Kind of going on
Hmm.
this really epic voyage, and so we were trying to get people who were going to be a bit more regular, kind of have like jobs, whether it's cleaning or working on stuff or
Hmm.
doing social media or video work and stuff like that. All things to help with the manning the ship, as it were. Yeah, so we had a lot of people kind of jump in, jump out. But we had a girl named Me who's Belgian, and she did the entirety of the trip from Alaska all the way
Awesome.
down
Awesome.
for the most part. Other people, they missed out on a month or two, but we finished off with, I think, about 8 people doing the majority of the trip.
Okay.
Uh, but we did flux. So, like, as far as people in the bus, we could fit legally 15 people max. That was the legal amount that we were allowed to, because we were an RV, technically.
Okay. Did
And
you have a
so we could
washroom
fit
on
15 people
the
max.
was it like a class C? You have a washroom on the bus or like a toilet?
No, no, it was just yeah, we didn't do a toilet well, one, I did that on purpose because I
Yeah.
didn't want to have to deal with that toilet for 15 people ever.
Well, you don't have to use it, but I think like
Yeah,
for insurance purposes, you can actually just get a removable toilet that you could actually take
yeah.
outside. And as long as it's
We did
on the
do that.
bus, as long as it's on
Yeah.
the bus, you can classify it that way.
So as we were driving through, we did have that. But then as we went through with the insurance, basically, and once we approached Mexico, like that kind of
It
goes
doesn't
out the
matter
window because
anymore.
you have to buy
Yeah,
insurance there anymore. So we were just like,
yeah,
no, it's not
yeah.
happening. And we left it all closed up, so nobody could
Okay.
use it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't cleaning that up. Like
No, for
we had a
sure.
shovel in the front, and the toilet paper was always there,
Yeah.
and that was everybody knew the drill for that. But yeah, no, it was very basic inside the bus. I mean, we did have a full size stovetop kitchen, 4 burner stovetop kitchen.
Okay.
We had a little electric fridge,
Did you
like
take
one of those little cooler fridges, you know. And
did you take a few rows of chairs out, or did you take all of them out,
yeah,
or how
yeah.
did you guys
So
fix up the bus?
basically, we had 18 sitting spaces. So as far as the seats go, you could have actually got 18 people in. We had 15 seat belts, actual legal seat belts, that we didn't have to install, but I just wanted to do it just in case because this is
Sure.
kind of weird, and just in case we got pulled over by like California Highway Patrol. That was kind of the limit that I was putting myself up to, is like if it'll pass
Yeah.
CHP, then it should pass almost
It
everything.
should, yeah.
Uh, and yeah, like I said, legally we didn't have to have them, but we did just to be safe. And yeah, but basically everything from about halfway on the bus down, we gutted out, put in a kitchen, put in some storage space that also doubled as bunk beds. I reversed two of the seats to basically have four spaces, or two four-seaters that faced
Mhm.
each other, and they
Yeah.
both had tables. Those
Cool.
tables collapsed down to be bunks if we had to sleep in
Nice.
there.
Nice.
We had eye bolts going throughout so we could hang up hammocks all over the place.
Sweet.
Had a bit of a lounge space in the back so we could have somewhere to hang out and eat when it was raining, which came in
Sweet.
handy a lot. But yeah, when we were 15 people on there, it was a real tight fit,
Yeah.
especially if we needed to sleep on the bus, which happened every now and again. That was definitely
Or
that was
every
definitely a
day.
squeeze, yeah. But, no, we designed it way more to kinda live out of, so we had tents and
Okay,
sleeping mats and bags and stuff like that, and
cool.
those were, like, the nicest nights where we could set up and then kinda branch out. And
Have a like base camp with the bus, and then you could
yeah, pretty
deviate
much, yeah,
wherever.
just have the mothership, and then you can kinda go from there onto other bits. But
Cool. So how was Central America? What was the pattern there?
so it was amazing to so we entered in from Arizona, down onto the west, but yeah, it was great to be back in Mexico. I love Mexico, and great to have the food back. I think that's probably some of the best food we had throughout the whole trip.
Of
Which
course,
could be a
yeah.
divisive statement, but it shouldn't be. But but yeah, yeah, had a great time. But as we started heading further south, we didn't realize this, but it was a El Nino year this
Oh
past year.
goodness. Okay.
Yeah, so the
You got
humidity
rained
hit
on.
us
Okay.
hard, and yeah,
Yeah.
we had a lot of rain. The rain never did a lot to make you feel any better, just more made
Yeah.
you close everything up, and then you get sweatier.
I
And at that
know,
time, we did have
yeah.
15 people in, so it's
Oh
like
yeah, you
there's
could smell
the few
everybody.
nights. Yeah, the few nights that we had to, like, because we had to be a lot more cautious about what we were doing for camping, because wild camping, I feel like for Central Americans, like wild camping is not really a thing. They're like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, why don't you just go sleep out somewhere? It's a little bit
Yeah.
of a bizarre subject. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we had to be a little more strategic about where we would stay. Go to like more RV friendly places, and
Yeah. Okay.
campgrounds were a little few and far between.
Mhm.
But yeah, the few times we did have to sleep on the bus, like for example, in like a truck stop or something like that, it was real sweaty and muggy. But but I mean, yeah, no, the bus was great. We were a little worried about it because she's from Minnesota. She's used to the cold. She's not used to the heat.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, she was on
but it was
vacation.
great.
She
Yeah,
was like,
exactly,
how
exactly.
many laps to the school bus did it have to do before you guys found it?
Yeah. Well, she had about 2,000, I think 2,000, 264,000 miles on her before we got
Yeah.
her.
That
She was
and
still a
it
school bus 6 months before we picked her up.
yeah,
So
cool. She's been around.
yeah, yeah,
Did
definitely.
anything wild happen in Mexico? What was the
Uh, it was yeah, I mean, Mexico is incredibly gorgeous and fantastic, and actually, we were having a way easier time going through than, the last time we had driven through, that area. Obviously, we weren't in a school bus at this time. Unfortunately, we had our one big bribe situation happen there.
Okay.
It was we were in the middle of, I forget what town it was, but we were in a smaller town, just driving, and we got lost, so we're trying to kind of scramble and figure out where's we're gonna go to go park, and there was nobody behind us, but this cop came up and was like, "Hey, you're blocking traffic." So we were like, "Okay." So we drive around the corner, and he comes up and he's like, "Okay, turn the bus off, like you're getting a ticket." And we were like, "What do we pulled over, like people could get by." And he's like, "No, no, you have to come over here," and he led us over to this one spot, and suddenly, like, he basically put us in a place where we were blocking traffic.
Okay.
And I don't know if that was to kind of like up the ante or something like that,
Just to
but so we were
validate
just kind of,
stopping you, probably.
yeah, maybe, it was kind of like we went from not blocking traffic to blocking traffic, and then he was just like, "Okay, well, you're getting a ticket for it." And it was kind of like, "Okay, well, if it's a legit ticket, there's nothing we could do about it, and that is what it is. We budgeted for this, shit happens as it goes."
Yeah.
And they're walking it through, and it all seemed super legit, right up until the last second where they were like, "Well, it should cost you about $1,000, but if you just put the
Oh,
money in the
wow.
envelope." And my partner Max is there, and he's kind of like, we've been through quite a
$1,000.
few
Is that what
bribes
they
throughout the
asked you?
stands and all over the place, and it was
Oh,
kind of
wow.
the, like, the wink and the nudge, and it was like,
Wow.
okay, now we know where it is. So negotiations went on, and I think we dropped it
What
down
did
to
you
about
settle
30
on?
bucks, and then we're on our
30
way.
bucks. Wow, that's quite the
Yeah.
haggle, man. From 1,000 down to 30. I think you did
They
good.
always, they gotta shoot high, because
Of
otherwise, you never
course.
know. And if
Of
they get
course.
lucky and they get somebody who just doesn't know what's going on, then they might throw them the money. Who knows?
That's so funny.
But yeah,
That's so
not
funny.
our
Did
not
you
our first rodeo with it.
So, yeah, I mean, from there, I assume you did, what is it? There's El Salvador. What's right
Yeah.
after
So we
Mexico?
did a bit of a wiggle route, and we kind of went off the main, Pan American route, because we
Okay.
wanted to go visit Belize. So
Okay.
we basically we crossed over into
Yeah.
Yucatan, and then, from
Mhm.
there, went into Belize. Had an amazing time there. Really,
Yeah.
really loved the country. We had a
Uh-huh.
friend there who was nice enough to let us crash at his house,
Cool.
basically for a weekend, and he took us around, showed us around,
Sweet.
kind of the local,
Well, Belize is like
bits.
an old British colony, right? Like, so
Yeah,
we're like all
yeah.
the signs were probably in English and everybody probably
Yeah,
spoke English
everything's in
and
English. The local language is English. It's definitely Caribbean vibes.
yeah.
Like, as you're there, a lot of the food is very Caribbean as well. So it changes quite drastically going from Mexico into Belize. But still really amazing. I mean, best hot sauce in the world, I think. Mary Sharp's comes
Yeah,
from Belize. It's,
that's your spot.
phenomenal. But anyway,
That's a big claim, dude. That's a big claim.
I know,
Best
man. I
hot
know, and I
sauce in
don't
the
I don't say it
world.
lightly. I don't say it
Whoa.
lightly.
What was it?
It's
One more
I know
time.
it's divisive, but
Let's
Mary
sponsor
Sharps,
this. Let's
Mary
sponsor
Sharps.
this
There you go.
podcast.
Send the
Big
check,
up
Mary.
Mary
But yeah,
Sharp.
no, definitely.
We take hot
Is
sauce. We'll take hot sauce.
Yeah. But yeah, no, but yeah, had an amazing time there. I mean, they're really
And
Belize is really
then,
famous for its, snorkeling, scuba diving. It's got a
okay.
couple of really massive blue holes, that it's
Hmm.
quite famous for.
Oh wow.
But then from there, we went into Guatemala,
Hmm.
and then from Guatemala into El Salvador, and then
Hmm. We came back
and
to the
then
coast, back to the
yeah, and
Pacific.
then
Yeah.
yeah, back onto more of the normal, Pan American route, and then carried on down through, from there to, Honduras, and then
Hmm.
into,
Nicaragua and
Nicaragua. Yeah, and then from Nicaragua to,
Costa Rica.
which
Were you guys
Costa
flying through
Rica.
the countries by then? Because you could probably drive through them in a day.
Yeah, so we were trying to give everywhere at least, couple of days,
Mhm.
so that we could soak up at least a little bit of the culture, and at least get to try local food, get to meet
Yeah,
the local people. One of the things that we really love so much about overlanding is you that gives you the excuse to get off the main road
yeah.
and to go to a small
And just
village,
stop
and
wherever you want. You don't have
yeah,
to
like,
like
well, I mean, one of our favorites in El Salvador specifically, we stopped off at this little beach village, And I mean, we got there at like 8 at night. It was really late. There's this little like football pitch. It was the only thing that was lit up. You know, it's just this dirt football pitch that's there, soccer pitch. Sorry
Yeah, yeah.
for
No, it's
our
all good.
Westerners. But yeah, we saw an overlanding site, you know, that was saying here you can camp up here and it's pretty good. And there's a couple of little shacks and houses that, you know, had some signs for some food there. So we rock up about 8 o'clock at night. We meet this local lady who's making local pupusas,
Mhm.
and we were just like, "Hey, you guys got any food?" And she's just like, "Oh yeah," and we're like,
She
"Okay, great." They
she
didn't shut
probably made
down.
her year.
What we realized was she not only wasn't open to begin with, she was like, it was her day off, and she was like,
Okay,
"Oh no, I'll open it up for like
okay.
15 people, and then
Sure,
have
yeah.
some cold beers." And so we were in paradise because we'd just been driving
Amazing,
all day and in the heat,
amazing.
and she was giving us cold beers, and yeah, she was just a babe, and it was amazing. Got to meet a lot of the local kids in the area and playing soccer and football,
Amazing.
and yeah, had a great dinner, and got to have a little bit of the local flair. So that was, you know, that's some of the great benefits of going by vehicle, I
Yeah.
think, onto
What was your
onto that
favorite spot in Belize?
oh, that's a tough one. I really love Hopkins Beach. It's kind of
Mhm.
it's becoming a bit more touristy now. It's a little bit of a it's basically this really quiet beach town, like a small little beach village, but it's kind of paradise, man. Like,
Mhm.
you know, perfect water, really chilled out. Like, you know, most places, as long as you ask and you have permission, they don't mind you camping on the beach.
Yeah.
You know, little beach huts and bars for days, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's just a little. It's very quiet. It's really quiet. It's
Yeah.
not like a crazy raging party town. It's just a
Mhm.
nice little village on the beach, and yeah,
Well,
probably one of my
Me
faves.
Mexico's pretty big. Did you have like something that really stood out in Mexico that was like a gem to you guys?
For me, this time was, because I didn't get to go to Oaxaca last time, and because
Okay.
I'm a big food nerd,
Yeah.
and, you know, Oaxaca, of course, is really famous for that, so I wanted to go check it out, and it didn't it
Didn't
was all
disappoint?
its reputation and more, you know,
Yeah.
for food and just being a gastronomic, powerhouse, throughout the country. You know, it's one of those growing up in California, like, you grow up with a lot of Mexican food,
Yeah.
of course, it's, like, more Cali Mex and stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah.
but you get the flavors nonetheless, and like, yeah, being in Oaxaca, and getting to see, like, you know, getting to try real Oaxacan cheese from Oaxaca, and like all
Yeah.
these other little bits that you know you
Amazing.
see a lot, and like all these, you know, cooking shows and stuff. It was, yeah, it was fun to really to be there
Cool.
on our own.
That's in the peninsula side, like in the Yucatan?
Just before, so
Okay.
I can't say the province, which is really terrible right now because I got a couple of different ones, but yeah, it's just a little to the left of Yucatan.
Okay.
So that more inland, rather close. I would probably say it's actually closer to the Pacific,
Okay.
but I don't quote me on that because it's been
No,
a while since I've looked at the map.
never. All good,
Yeah.
brother. Cool, cool. So what about El Salvador? Did anything stand out in El Salvador that you
So we went through at a really unique time because El Salvador had just, you know, they had been
they
plagued
got
for
hit?
years with all this gang violence and
Mhm.
you know, craziness, and you know, whether it's for better or for worse, you know, it's definitely one of those things that will be argued throughout the years, I think. But as we were coming through, you know, their new president, their very young president, has been installed for a while, and he did this massive crackdown. Basically, he just went through and just started arresting anybody that had any association with any gangs,
Mhm.
and it seems to have really cleared things up.
Mhm.
People seem to be very stoked about it, supportive of him about it. Like I said, it's very controversial because, you know, there's not a lot of, they're basically just throwing a ton of people in jail, and I'm sure
Yeah.
there's probably a few innocents that are getting thrown
That
into,
shouldn't
you know,
be
in the mix.
mhm.
But yeah, like, anyways, it seems to have been affected. I mean, the whole time we were going through, we felt in extremely safe.
Mhm.
Everybody was really friendly to us, and I feel like it kind of opened the country a little bit more for a lot of overlanders. I'll never forget the border. It was crazy when we entered in. I mean, if it was up, like, if we didn't know any better, we could have just driven through, because they basically stopped us. They were like, "Oh, where are you guys from? Oh, this is amazing! Like, oh, really cool, great to see you. Thanks for coming in." And we're like, "Okay, like, do we need to?" like
You want to
where do we
see
check
our
in
passports
for
or?
stuff?" And they're, yeah, do you like? And they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, you go do that at the office over there." You know, like of course, like normally we're used to these big gates. There's like armed guards and
Yeah,
stuff,
it's like really
and these guys were all
intimidating.
just like, "Whoa, what are you guys doing here?" You know.
Yeah.
So they were
So
great.
they
It was
wanted to
really
jump on
awesome.
the bus with you guys and be
Yeah,
friends.
no, they did. They did. We had a couple of them come on and sign the. That was our like stereotypical. Anybody who came on the bus, we had them sign the roof. And so
Okay,
yeah, we got
cool.
a couple of a board guard sign the roof there, and it was like yeah, it
Amazing.
was the coolest welcoming on board. But yeah, it was just it seems like the country's really done a kind of a 180 from the direction they were moving in. So
Okay.
I hope that that works
Yeah.
out for them
Hmm.
and things kind of continue to be in that sense. But yeah, I think just kind of the warm welcome we received, and then the food was just so
Yeah. That's
phenomenal and
kind of what I want to
really
know
different.
about.
It had a lot of its own flares. Yeah, there,
Yeah.
yeah, like me. But, yeah, so it's definitely
That's
worthwhile.
interesting. Kind of want to know.
I wouldn't be worried about safety. Obviously, keep your head on you,
Of course. Yeah.
anywhere
You
in the
always
world
have
you
to be.
go. But
You have to always have to be cognizant
yeah,
of that, no matter where
but
you
no,
are.
we didn't have any issues the whole time we were going through, and we all we
Hmm.
every and we did wild camp quite a lot while we were out there,
Yeah.
and we still felt very secure. Never it didn't have any weird vibes from anybody the whole time we were going
Oh,
through. So
cool.
very
What
lucky with
about
that.
Guatemala? Did you get any unique experiences there or good
Yeah,
spots
so
that you can remember?
this is gonna turn into a bit of a theme, but we for the whole trip, but we happened to be in Antigua just when they started protesting.
Uh,
Guatemala started protesting against their government for
yeah.
a couple of different reasons, the
Yeah.
politics of which I don't even want to try
Yeah, we
and
don't have to talk about
come
that.
after. But basically the way they would protest is they would just shut down roads.
Oh, okay.
And
Did you
so
get stuck for a while?
of course that gets us stuck for a while. There was
Yeah.
a lot of other not overlanders, but a lot of other backpackers that they were getting stuck in places like Lake Atitlan and other areas
Mhm.
where they would book like a B&B or a hostel, and
Oh,
suddenly
yeah.
they
I
can't
can't
get
go
out.
anywhere.
Nobody else gets out, so everybody books up all the restaurant, and some people were kind
Yeah.
of like, I have nowhere to
Oh, no.
stay, and so it caused a fair amount of chaos.
Did
We were lucky we
you
had the
did you
bus,
have to
so
take on some backpackers? Like, give them
we got a few hitchhikers, yeah, on the
yeah?
way through every now and again. But yeah, no, we spent quite a few hours and nights just kind of sitting in traffic, waiting for things to open back
Mhm.
up
Okay.
and go through. Which we got really lucky. It only dragged us back about maybe a day or two total
Mhm.
in like time to get in. But yeah, it was other than that, it was great. We entered in and headed straight to a place called Lake Flores, which is a real gem that it's kind of on the trail, but I feel like everybody needs to go to. It's a really beautiful city
Okay.
that's right in the middle of a lake, and just really phenomenal.
Just like an
And of course
island
Guatemala
inside the
has
lake inside of the
yeah.
mainland? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. So it's really cool, and there's tons of these little. It kind of makes you feel almost like you should be in
In the Caribbean.
Southeast Asia or something like
Yeah,
that. They have all these
okay.
crazy long boats that
Okay.
all
It's like
taxi you
Copenhagen or
around all over the
something?
place. Yeah, it's just it's a cool. It's just yeah, Lake Flores. It's
Nice.
one of those places that just it sticks in your head.
Well,
But
Nicaragua
yeah,
also has Ometepe. Did you guys
yeah,
hit
yeah, we
that up?
did. Yeah, we went and hit that up. That was great. Nicaragua was a little frustrating to get through. They because one, they don't like drones, so we had to ship the
Okay.
drones beforehand to Costa Rica to kind of go around.
Oh, really?
And
You
then when we
couldn't bring
entered
it
in,
in?
no, you can't even bring.
Oh,
Yeah, don't even try.
wow.
They'll just take it.
Wow.
They'll just take it from
Wow.
you. Yeah,
Crazy.
they're not having
I
that.
had no
Yeah,
idea.
even after we shipped them, I mean, I had two batteries and the remote controller on me, and the guy wanted to try and stop us from coming in just because of the remote.
Wow, interesting.
And I had actually had to pull out the entry form from the government website
Yeah.
that says no drones, but drone equipment is allowed if you
Okay.
ship it, because that's kind of the normal thing
That's the
now. But anyway,
recommendation, yeah.
yeah, just trying to get in the country, it took us about 7 hours to
Oh,
get through
wow.
the first border. And then when we got to the end of that, we had when we got to the end of the whole process, they finally gave us all our visas to
Stamps.
enter,
Yeah.
and then they gave me the bus visa, because the bus has its own visa basically. and
Okay.
I took a look at it, and they only gave the bus 3 days, whereas they gave
Oh
the rest of us
no.
90 days.
Oh
And so we were
God.
like, "Wait a minute, like, what is this?" And he was like, "Oh, well, they asked us where we were going, and you said you're going to Costa Rica." And I was like, "Well, yeah, after we're done seeing Nicaragua, like,
Yeah.
what was this for?" And the guy was like, "Nah, too late. It's already done.
Oh
Stamped.
no.
There's nothing you can
So
fix it."
so you were limited here.
Yeah,
You
well,
had to
yeah,
choose
it
your
was killer, but we were really, I mean, we really wanted to see the country,
a
so
little
we
bit
were really
rushed.
determined with it. And we had a local guy suggest to us to message the I guess kind of like the chief of police
Okay.
for kind of border control and stuff like that. So Max, being the tech savvy guy that he is, went and asked ChatGPT to write up a letter, a convincing letter to the to the local
Nice.
authorities in Spanish for us, and sent
Awesome.
that in, and it works. We
Yeah.
we got a we got
Oh, cool. You got
a
it. You got an
yeah, we got
extension
a
for it.
special allowance to extend our time, and
Oh,
so
that's
yeah,
amazing.
we got to
Big up
stay,
Nicaragua. That's awesome.
yeah, exactly. So it was
That's
great. So we got
awesome.
to enjoy it
Do
throughout. And
do any of you speak Spanish? Is like
so I speak a little bit,
okay.
muy poco,
Un
but
poquito.
yeah, terrible Spanish on my end. But no, we had three fluent speakers, and then of course we all picked up little bits here and
Of
there,
course. Yeah. So
and
what
yeah,
did you
yeah. I mean,
find in Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, no, I was just saying, with when it comes to that kind of language, it's just always, if you don't have the words for it, you just mime it out, and
Yeah. And
some will stick.
did you find that as you went from country to country, the Spanish changed? Like the way people
Oh,
spoke?
hugely. I mean, like going from northern Mexico to southern Mexico, it already changes
Yeah.
drastically. So, not including Guatemala, El Salvador, like everywhere has their different accents, they have their different
Hmm.
slang words.
Yeah.
And of course we're mainly sticking to the basics, trying to stick to, just
Yeah.
classical, I guess,
Hmm.
like if you had to say, like, if for English, I don't know if you'd say the Queen's Speech kind of thing, because that wouldn't work for us. But like maybe more like mid to Western American, like Americas, like for English. I feel like we have similar accents. We use a
Yeah.
few different words, but
Yeah.
we're kind of bland. So we
Good.
tried doing that with most of our Spanish
Yeah.
to make sure we kept up with it. But yeah, I think honestly, out of everywhere that we went, Chile was the craziest,
Oh,
because we
really?
got down there and I was like, "Oh, are they
¿Qué?
actually I know they're speaking Spanish, but, like, I'm not picking up
That's funny.
anything that they're putting down,"
That's funny.
so,
You know, I'm half
but,
Chilean, right? My mom's Chilean.
no, I didn't know that, man. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
So
awesome.
that's
Oh,
extra
okay.
funny to me because as I'm traveling and I'm speaking Spanish, people pick it out immediately that
Yeah.
that my Spanish is Chilean. And so it's so funny that
Yeah.
you say that.
It's well, and you guys and, like, Chilean has so many different, like, slang words as well, right? Like,
Oh.
we learned a lot about how, like, Chileans can get themselves in trouble
In
in,
other
like, different
countries. Yeah.
countries. Yeah, by saying shit, like, apparently sweater can mean different,
Polera and polerón en
yeah,
camisa. You'd say polera for a shirt in Chile, but a polerón is like a sweater in other places, right?
yeah.
In Central America here, if you went to a shop, it would be called a camisa, which is like a button-up shirt in Chile. But here you'd say
Okay,
that
yeah.
for like a t-shirt, for example. And there's lots
Yeah.
of things like that.
But yeah, no, yeah, it was hard for us to wrap our heads around, because obviously it's not our native
Yeah.
language, and
In Chile,
but funny to kind of see
they
those
say
things down.
po instead of pue. Ya
Yeah.
pues, they said, ya po.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was the thing, man. When I was we were going down, we're just like, suddenly we went from being
Ya po.
confident in our Spanish to
Oh,
having zero
no, you're
confidence.
screwed. No. And one thing that I
But
think is
yeah.
really funny about how Chileans talk and that other people pick up is that like Chileans, their cadence goes up. It's like a root sign. You can start
Yeah.
here and then the pitch goes up and they would do like a whole sentence at the top of it. Like
The high ends.
And yeah, and it's so Chilean that people pick up. Anyways, we're still in Nicaragua. What happened in Ometepe? What was your favorite spot in Nicaragua?
Ah, man, you know, I really think just hanging out by around
By
I
the
really think the
beaches?
volcanoes were, like,
Okay, the
probably the
volcanoes.
most epic, like,
Yeah.
of the areas that we were hanging out in. Um, I don't know. It was just so stunning, and it was really, yeah, it was just really
Well,
epic. Just a really, really
here
epic area.
they have that kind of same thing where it's like a big lake with islands inside of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I haven't been yet, but I'm sure it's majestic.
Yeah, yeah, it's so cool. I mean, I don't know, it varies so much as well because like the weather and everything else, but it meant a lot to us because actually camping on the beaches that look onto the volcanoes is where one of the spots in the old documentary from the 1940s
Hmm.
that the Richardson expedition went to, and so we were able to kind of recreate this shot within a shot of
Yeah.
like them and they had a Chrysler Plymouth that they drove down
Okay.
and kind of eyeing it up almost similar to like where the bus was like parked up on the beach.
Mhm.
And back then when they did it, you could just drive the whole beach. Like there was nothing on there.
Yeah,
Obviously now there's like buildings and a few things, but
of
we
course.
still parked the bus up on the beach and camped on there. So
Sweet.
that was super cool and unique.
Amazing.
And
Did you
but
go
yeah,
through San Juan del Sur and like do the
yes,
coastal cities? Yeah.
yeah, a little bit. We more kind of touched on it and went through. I'll be honest, man. It was hot.
Yeah.
it was so. It was so. If we could, our main thing that we were looking for was some place that would
To
have
cool
wind,
down. Yeah.
just to cool down
San
because
Juan,
like some of the
this city has a mountain all around it, so it does get like
yeah
really hot here, and
yeah
you have to be at the beach or you're just melting, which I kind of like about
well
it. That's what I like about being down here is I'm losing a lot of weight because I'm like always in a sauna, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly. No, and we had this weird like juxtaposition where we had our tents and it was way too hot to sleep in the bus most of the time.
Yeah.
And the mosquitoes were just fucking vicious. Like they
Oh,
were
they're
everywhere all the
small.
time.
They're super small here. You
Yeah,
don't even see them.
I know, and so it was, we were going through all that. Basically, we would be wrapped up in our tents, but even the tents were like sauna in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But then
You need
if
the
we opened it
hammocks.
up, we'd be eaten alive in like 5 seconds.
Oh
So
no.
it was just you had this and we did have
Uh,
hammocks, but that
yeah,
was the problem was like you go in
yeah.
the hammocks,
You need to
you're
fly
now a
or
banana
something.
boat for
Yeah,
the local insects,
yeah,
and so yeah, it was a bit. We didn't have the best sleep
yeah.
going through
Okay.
the whole time.
And Costa
But
Rica was
lucky enough,
next.
yeah, when we got into Costa Rica, we managed to get up into to the mountains, up into some of their national forests up there, and that's finally we got some respite. Everything cooled down a little bit, and we spent most of the time just going through Costa Rica. We basically just went from national park to national park, just
Yeah,
hitting up all these big ones, which were
volcanoes
amazing
there
and
too.
incredible. But we were really surprised at how expensive they were. Like
It
Costa
is. Yeah.
Rica, definitely. I
It's a
mean, it
very
was really interesting though.
Americanized place. It's
Yeah,
getting gentrified. Like anybody,
definitely.
I hear like a lot of people here like it here because it's like how Costa Rica was 10, 20 years ago. They've
Hmm.
like migrated to Nicaragua, which is great for Nicaragua. But now I have quite a few. I know quite a few people who have like bought land in Costa Rica and turned it into Airbnbs, and they're like North American prices. They're charging like
Yeah,
$150 a night just for this little
yeah,
1 bedroom studio, just because it's there. And you go to the
yeah.
restaurant and it's like $18 for like a large pizza. I'm like, where am I? You know,
Yeah, exactly. You're like, wait a minute, it's like,
where am
am I
I?
back in Vancouver basically or something like
Yeah,
that. But
exactly.
yeah, no, it was really interesting though because it wasn't like basically that was the thing. You had to really look for locals because we did manage to find some really great accommodation and campsites that were dirt cheap, but they were obviously run they were away from the big touristy areas and they were run by local Costa Ricans,
Yeah,
and those were way more like same with the restaurants. If we wanted to get
yeah,
food,
yeah,
a lot more that. But even yeah, the local grocery stores were still.
yeah.
I mean,
They're
compared
selling
to
to
Nicaragua, and
Americans. They're selling to
yeah,
Americans. That's the
exactly.
problem.
Um, but yeah,
And you
I
don't
mean,
get any
other than that,
flexibility.
it was great. We actually had to swap out a few tires because we lost a few tires at this point.
Okay.
So we were really lucky. Found amazingly well priced, brand new front tires.
Entrepreneurship can be a lonely and overwhelming journey. I started my first company in 2003, more than 20 years ago. Most of the challenges that an entrepreneur faces, I can deeply relate to. The tough conversations, the hard decisions, the setbacks, the personal sacrifices, the feelings of isolation, the mental exhaustion, the anxiety. Being a company leader means that persistent problems eventually end up in your lap. And as a founder, those problems are everywhere. When the mud hits the fan, guess who everyone looks to for answers? The issues often seem to have obvious solutions in isolation, but they are less so in the context of a specific business, team, and stakeholder environment. And they usually come with decisions. Real decisions are hard because something's got to give. The stream of constant problems and decisions can be exhausting. Eventually, it will reveal personal questions that are nagging below the surface. Questions closely related to our hopes, desires, fears, needs, or beliefs. Why am I doing this and what for? The initial passion is gone. By now, it feels like a constant rat race to hit milestones. Is this what I'm to be doing for the next few years? How do I grow, transform, and build a life of meaning? On that lonely journey, it's hard to find somebody to trust and to speak with openly. And yet, there's hardly anything more effective than taking moments of reflection, structuring challenges, and prioritizing well for the business, but also for your personal journey. That's why we're building a new fractional CXO community called the Golden Ticket Club, a way for them to be a part of a kind of council of peers. Having someone to call on and doing regular check ins helps to talk things through, make better decisions, and to keep calm during the storm. That's also why we have built this new kind of business model that we're calling Fractional Leadership as a Service, an equity collective that allows fractionals to have more agency, to have a platform to grow into, and to be a part of something bigger than themselves. But ultimately, to help solopreneurs see their dreams become a reality. At Rad Studio, we help lift you from the top instead of pumping you up from the bottom. In the next few weeks, on Mondays, I'll be doing AMAs to talk to fractionals, to introduce them to this community, and to show them how to potentially join our equity collective. Our plan is to launch a new product every year. We have 3 products in the equity collective now that have 23 open seats, and we're looking for 8 leaders for each one. We hope that we can prove this business model with some really excellent leaders. Stay tuned. You were out of Costa Rica fast.
I mean, we were in Costa Rica for almost 2 weeks, so we had a little
Oh
bit of time
wow,
there.
you took
Yeah,
you
yeah.
took your
So we
time.
were, I mean, we were still moving along, but we had a little bit. Um, we yeah, like I was saying, the protests becoming a theme on the trip. Basically, the day before we entered into Panama from Costa Rica, we got word that that big protests were starting to go up. And long story short, apparently a old mine that was run by a Canadian company uh, was about to reopen, and like the government had signed off legislation to
Mm.
allow this to go through. From the sounds of it, it sounds like
They wanted
the
to
Panamanian
nationalize it or
the
something.
government well, it's more they wanted to put it back to work. So it was an
Mm.
old mine that had like shut down near the Cologne area, and they wanted to get it back up and running, but it was on indigenous land. So I think
Oh, okay.
like a lot of the locals were happy that it was just kind of shut down and not really doing anything. And but basically they had they pushed through some legislation that was going to allow it to rebrand. And apparently, I don't know. Again, I don't know a lot of the politics of this, but from what we heard, apparently the deal wasn't so great. Panamanians weren't going to get a lot of the money coming in, and it was quite controversial. So what Panama does when they are really pissed off at the government is very similar to Guatemala. They just shut the roads down. And the problem with Panama
Mm.
is their only major highway that goes through the country is the Pan American Highway. So
Yeah.
we were stuck up in the furthest north city called David, and we couldn't get through, which is super problematic because we were going to be shipping from Cologne to Cartagena, and we had a
Mm.
boat. to catch. Yeah,
Oh no.
and yeah, long story short, there was no way for us to make that boat
Oh
because the
no.
highway was just completely shut down. And when I mean shut down, basically we attempted to try and cross, but we were greeted by a bunch of tires in the road that they
Okay.
just set on fire.
Oh
And
goodness.
yeah, so foolishly we even went to go speak with a few of the protesters who were like dressed up in basically homemade riot gear and gas
Yeah.
masks and things like that. Luckily, one of the women there spoke perfect English and kind of explained the whole thing and was just like, "Yeah,
Hmm.
this is the deal. You're not getting through anywhere.
Oh God.
We appreciate you guys coming to Panama. Sorry you came at this time. Now's not a really good time."
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a big shakeup for us because we had planned to do this whole shipping track, and like I said, we planned in a time period for everybody who was on the trip and was going to be a part of it to try and work it out, and suddenly that dateline had gotten pushed back by an entire month. So
Oh
that meant a
wow.
couple people weren't going to be able to carry on with the trip, and it was a
Shoot.
whole reshuffle, and we had to completely reorganize shipping. Which if you've ever had anything to do with shipping vehicles, let alone a fucking bus, it's a nightmare. It's
It's a
a
pain in the ass. Yeah.
absolute yeah, it's just crazy.
Hmm.
And But luckily we were able to finally work it out. We had already booked a place to stay in Cartagena, so basically we found a really wonderful woman who runs a overlanding kind of camp in David area. She let us just park up the bus for $1 a day because
Oh
she was
wow.
just amazing,
Sympathizing. Yeah.
totally understanding. Yeah,
Yeah.
helping with the whole process.
That's
So
great.
we parked up the bus, went to Cartagena to kind of work out the logistics of how we're going to get the bus in, and finally eventually the protests ended, and so we were able to go back, although be it a month later,
Yeah.
uh, you know, uh, get the bus and bring it back
Hmm.
over, and finally get it on the shipping to Cartagena and get it from
So
there.
you got stuck in Colombia for a month. Stuck.
Stuck, yeah, yeah. Which Cartagena is not the worst place to be for a month for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah. Did
and
you
yeah, a
go
lot of
to?
people. We
Sorry.
we were so we were actually there for about 2 months almost, like the whole
Okay.
team. Because
Okay.
we basically had prepared for about 3 weeks of for shipping time for the bus to get over because
Hmm.
there's quite almost we usually give about 5 days for ports because there's all this shit you have to sign. There's
Yeah.
all kinds of paperwork you have to go through.
Hmm.
Sometimes you have to
The
grease some palms, that
bureaucracy
kind
of
of thing.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a nightmare. But so we gave lots of time for that, but the pushback of it now being 2 months suddenly meant that that's a whole month of accommodation that people weren't prepared for. So
Yeah.
so some people kind of branched out, went and kind of traveled a little bit of
Hmm.
Colombia
Lots of places
without
to
us,
go.
and
Did you
yeah,
guys
yeah,
go
hit up a few spots.
to?
And
Did you go to Casa en el Agua?
it doesn't ring any bells. So
No.
I where's that at?
It's like really on the north, like the northern, like where kind of South America curves, kind of
Like kind
like
of, I guess,
into the Caribbean. And yeah,
like
there's
heading towards Venezuela kind of thing.
yeah, close probably.
Okay, yeah,
There's
I didn't personally go up there, but a lot of our
okay.
team were. Well, I know two of them went up there and came back with some pretty epic stories, and
Yeah.
then went back
Yeah.
at the end of the
It's
trip. Went straight back
beautiful.
there.
It's
So
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah,
Amazing.
I hear it was good.
Yeah. So it took 2 months to get the bus there, and then you
Yeah. So
lost a
yeah,
couple people. How many people were
yeah.
you in
So we
Colombia?
we were supposed to be keeping up with about, I think we were supposed to be about 13 people, and then yeah, we had our Israeli guy. Obviously the war had broken out and that was really tough on
Oh
him.
no. Yeah.
It was a real struggle for whether or not he should stay on the trip and whatnot, and I think that was kind of the nail in the coffin for him. Was so he ended up bailing out, and then we had two other girls that were supposed to be on the trip for the whole time, but that 1 month delay meant that they wouldn't be able to be back for work in time when they need to start, and obviously
Oh no.
being on a bus for this long, that's a huge financial commitment. So they
Mhm.
just weren't able to swing it the right way, and
Mhm.
so they lost them. So it was a bit of a scare because we weren't sure if financially we were going to be able to carry on, but luckily we found a few people to to jump in
Yeah.
their place, and so we were about 10 people from that point on
Okay.
heading down, which worked out
Yeah.
just right
Well,
for
I'm sure there's
most of
tons
the
of
trip going
people in the digital nomad community that would happily hop on board.
in.
You know,
Yeah,
just have
well,
to
the
put your
hard part
salesman
about it
hat.
was we had a lot of people interested, but because we didn't have I wish we had done it, but we it was just one of those things. It didn't really seem like it made sense at the time, but because we didn't have like Starlink or anything like that, it was really hard to work from the bus.
True, true,
So it
true.
was one of those we really struggled with going
Yeah.
through. If I could do it all again, I'd just get the Starlink and we'd be all right.
Yeah, totally.
Which we're already talking about for our next trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was one of those bit of a weird challenge. But yeah, Colombia is just phenomenal. I mean, one of
Where did you hit in Colombia? Did you go over to
so
the
we
Pacific side, I assume?
Yeah, a
Follow the
little bit.
coast?
Just basically just kind of touched on it. Not too much. We wanted to stick a little more to the Pan American at this point because we were
Okay.
following a few other spots that the Sullivan expedition went through.
All right, okay.
But yeah, we went basically from Cartagena down to Medellin, and then from Medellin to Bogota, Bogota to Calais, and then from Calais went into the Tatacoa Desert,
Okay.
which was a new big one for me. I had no idea that Colombia had a desert,
Yeah.
and holy shit, it was amazing. It is
Yeah, it's wild.
so gorgeous, and yeah, we just had a really really incredible time there. Lost a
Cool.
tire out there, had a local guy fix it up for us.
Okay.
We're used to these shops that have all these big crazy industrial truck equipment.
No.
This dude literally he had like a pole, like a breaker, and then just like a
Yeah.
big giant metal tube that he just slid on top of the pole and just cranked it down.
Yeah.
Fixed our tire for us, and
It's
so
basic physics, man. It's just
yeah, man. No, those guys
cantilever.
out there, they don't fuck around. They get it done.
They can do
Like
anything
they get it
anywhere.
done with what they have, not what they want,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
Eleanor
yeah,
Roosevelt.
yeah, but yeah, had an amazing time there, and
It's
then yeah, went down
I guess what's next? Ecuador
into
probably.
Ecuador. Yeah,
Yeah.
so entered into Ecuador. Again, protests and craziness
Oh,
or political
yeah.
unrest
Oh,
continuing its trend onto the trip. So I don't know if you ever heard about they had I guess he was a big mobster of the country. He basically disappeared from one of their jails overnight.
oh
I
really?
guess yeah, he was. I guess he was like one of the biggest bad mobsters in the country or something like that. So
Okay.
basically, long story short, he disappeared one night, and a bunch of gangs kind of like rose up and started causing some fuss throughout the country, and the government basically did a shutdown. They
Yeah.
basically made a curfew, 10 p.m. curfew, and they kind of locked down the country a little bit, and basically made it so because normally you could just nobody needs a big visa or anything like that. You just need a visa upon entry, type thing.
Hmm.
They changed it so you would need now if you were traveling overland, you would need to have what's it called? Like a background check, basically to make sure
Okay.
you weren't a criminal in your home country.
Sure.
Which for people with about 8 different passports
Yeah.
wasn't an easy thing to get overnight. So
Yeah.
we just kind of winged it. We showed up, and we got really lucky. We got in touch with the head of the head of
The
uh,
consulates,
what do you call that?
the embassies.
Not the embassies, the border
Oh, immigration.
control guys, like the head of
Hmm.
the yeah, immigration. And he basically, he kind of quizzed us a little bit, was asking us what we were doing, and we showed him pictures of the bus, and we were like, it's just outside. You can come look at it if you want. And he was like, no, 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 yeah, it's fair enough.
Hmm.
You guys are just tourists. Like, sorry for the timing, but it is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And basically, he was like, the best I can do for you is I'll give you a 10-day transit visa, which meant that we did get to see a little bit of the country. Obviously, not as much
Hmm.
as we would have liked. We were planning on
Yeah.
spending at least 15 days in the country, so there was a lot more that we wanted to see. But yeah, he gave us that nicety, and then also that allowed us to go through, because if he didn't do that, we would have
You'd
been
be
dead in the
pooched
water. There's
again.
no
Oh
there's
man,
no way to
another
go
month.
around Ecuador.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was great. Went and saw the center of the world where the equator line is,
Yeah. You go to
and went to a
Is it
couple
Pinto?
other amazing
No.
villages,
What is it? Quito.
near Quito. Yeah, near
Yeah.
Quito. Yeah, spent a little bit of time in Quito. But yeah, it was another one of those things that kind of took wild camping out of the
Hmm.
loop
Yeah.
again. So were forced to stay in some accommodation. A lot of it was great. We had so many awesome people that we ran into that were quite apologetic. They just came out there like, hey, we're really, please come back. We're really sorry that
Yeah.
this is happening now.
Yeah. It
It's
happens.
but we never felt like we were in danger. But it was one of
Yeah.
those, we weren't messing around. Every
Hmm.
time it was 10, we were at our spot and locked everything down, and yeah,
Was there any cool
yeah.
spots that stood out in
It's
Ecuador?
terrible. I can't think of the name, but it was on the way south. They have a ton of these natural hot springs
Okay.
that we went through, and we went into this one small village. I'll need to get the name up for it, but yeah, it was just one small village that just had all these awesome hot springs, and we just had the best hospitality. We stayed in a really nice, really inexpensive little B&B. That just it was a local. We didn't even get it online. It was a local person kind of hooked us up with it, and yeah, we just kind of chilled in some hot springs. It was a nice city, a nice time where the weather had chilled out a little bit. We weren't sweating our asses off anymore, so we got
Yeah.
to kind of relax a little, and yeah, just amazing food, amazing people,
Sweet.
really great times. And then yeah, from there we carried on down to Peru,
Hmm.
into the desert of the far north, um, where again the climate completely changed because we went
Yeah.
from nice cool mountain kind of jungleless
It's
areas
a very
to
dry
yeah,
air.
just
Yeah.
sweltering.
Yeah.
And it was our second time going into Peru. Obviously, this time was new with the bus. At this point, we started getting a lot of recognition for the bus because obviously they don't really have a lot of big American school buses in South America.
Yeah.
And it was really
Yeah.
funny because we just felt like royalty. We'd be driving around, people would just be waving at us and honking their
Hey.
horns and like taking
Nice.
pictures of us, and we'd
They
have
have
all these
really
kids. They kind of
cool
pointed at us
old
and
they have really cool old like BMW buses that they
yeah,
just
yeah, they
like
have these
keep
old classic.
they keep them running and they're colorful and they're really great.
Yeah. But yeah, it was funny. Everybody kept calling us we were either called the Simpsons bus or the Spider-Man bus.
Oh,
And the Spider-Man
really?
one threw me off because yeah, I was kind of like, what is that about? But somebody kind of explained to me, they're like, no, in like the new Marvel movies, the new Marvel Spider-Man movies, I guess every movie there's like a bus that's in it.
Oh, really?
Like,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. It was
You would
interesting.
only that only stands out if you're not from North America, right? Because you're just like,
Yeah,
oh, it's a
yeah.
school bus.
Yeah, exactly. Like, never noticed it,
Interesting.
but
The
yeah, yeah.
Spider-Man bus.
Anyways, so from that point on, we just felt like huge celebrities, and
That's so funny.
just had a great time.
How pop culture comes into it, eh?
Yeah, yeah,
What stood out in? Did you go up to the Cusco and stuff like that,
yeah. So
or?
we did. At this point, we were very wise on how to drive the bus now. So we developed a plan for whenever we got to major cities. Like if they were, well, it depends. So for example, we drove into oh geez, the capital. Uh,
Lima?
Lima. Yeah, yeah. We drove into Lima with the bus because Lima is a modern city.
Hmm.
So the roads are very, almost like the U.S. They're really wide, lots of
Hmm.
space for turning, whatnot. So no problems with that. And yeah, it was great. But then when came to Cusco, Cusco is a colonial city, so we
Hmm.
didn't even bother trying to get anywhere close to it.
Okay.
Just found the first big like kind of there's a lot of areas outside of the cities where you can park up like buses or
Totally.
big semi trucks. So we just found one of those, pay the guy to watch over it for a couple of days, and we
Days.
just rented an
Yeah.
Airbnb, and so we did the whole
Nice.
gambit. Went to Cusco, did Machu Picchu
Awesome.
the Rainbow Mountain and
Did
all that
anybody get
kind
sick
of stuff.
from the elevation and stuff like that,
So
or?
so we ended up going up into the mountains a little bit earlier on there, and I can't. There's so many spots that I just can't keep all the names in my brain.
Totally.
But we went to one of the high altitude lakes. I think it was about 5,500 meters or something like
Hmm.
that, or um anyways, it was higher than any of us have been for a long time. The bus was struggling a little bit, and that's the first time. I always proud myself because I lived in the mountains for quite a few years. I never really got altitude sickness, and then
Yeah.
we did this trip, and oh man, like we
You
stayed
have
up in
to
this
take your
mountaintop
time. You
up
have
at
to
the
take your
top.
time
Yeah,
going up
like
there.
I was okay like the first night, but it was when we went to bed, like suddenly I really struggled to breathe, had a massive
Hmm.
headache, like, was
Yeah,
really struggling. And of course, the only way to solve that is to go back down in altitude. So
yeah,
yeah, we all struggled with the altitude quite a bit,
yeah,
but what was cool is when we came back down, we all felt like Superman. We were all
yeah.
like running up hills. We were just
Sweet.
altitude
Hey,
training.
bro.
But yeah. Now Peru, I
Did
mean,
you?
for the altitude and everything else like that, like you get all the amazing mountain spots, and I think
When
my
you?
favorite in Peru is the food for sure. Sorry.
Yeah. So many good things. Yeah, the ceviche. It's the home of the ceviche.
Mm. But
Um,
then, there's that battle in between Chile and Peru, and so I don't
of
want to get in the
course.
middle of that,
Yeah,
man.
we don't have to. We don't have. We don't have to cause any ruckus here. Um, when you guys were in Lima, did you guys stay down by the like below the escarpment there on the beach? Were you able to like get away with camping down there?
We actually found a place in the city that
Okay,
we were able to park up for.
like a
I don't
Miraflores
know if it was
area
for
or something.
free or. Yeah, it was kind of in the new hip
Hmm.
like I don't want to say gentrified, but I'm sure it's
Yeah,
getting there. But
yeah,
yeah, it was like kind of the young university students, like hipsters area.
yeah,
Lots of amazing restaurants.
yeah.
That kind of allowed us to take
Hmm.
taxis are really cheap, so we were able to
Yeah,
just kind of go around and see the whole
hmm.
city from there. And
Yeah, that's where I lived when I was there.
okay, yeah, that was yeah, loved it out there. I mean,
Yeah.
the amount of food is just like
Yeah, they
nuts.
have
And then yeah,
lots of options. And the view from that escarpment, that whole escarpment has this big park, Love Park, and you
yes,
can
yeah,
just
we spent a lot of time going out over there. We didn't have
um,
too long in Lima, which was a bit of
mhm.
a shame, but yeah, we oh man, it was and it's just so epic and vast, like the beachfront
It's
going all the
great.
way. I mean, and
And the
you can't
breaks
even
are
see the end.
awesome. It's
Like
like $7 or $8 to like rent a board
yeah,
and go for a lap for 4 or 5 hours, and it's such a great spot. I love it.
yeah. It's definitely one of those. I can see why it's become such a remote workers destination because
Hmm.
it's just yeah, it's awesome. Very very modern, but then still has all that old, a lot of
Yeah,
the
it's still
a
definitely
lot of the
Peru, you know.
yeah, exactly.
And then into the Atacama Desert next.
Yeah, yeah. So we delved down into so what we did first is we went over to what is it? We went into Bolivia and
Oh,
went up to the
okay.
salt flats. So that was the
Okay.
big
Oh yeah, you
that was the
gotta. You
with the
can't
bus.
not.
And I mean some of the shots. So we set that up pretty well because this is the time of year where there's just that thin layer of water on
Yeah.
there, so it just turns
Had
into
the
a mirror.
mirror effect. Yeah.
And man, like taking the bus out on that, we kind of were like, all right, we have to, there's
Yeah.
and we were really up and down on it because obviously all that salt getting up in the
Yeah.
engine and everywhere
It can be
was just
complicated.
kind of a thing. But luckily enough, we found there's a great family that live just outside that they have this whole pressure washing station all set
Okay.
up, so they'll go through and they'll just pressure wash the hell out of everything, and then they re-oil all your
Oh.
bearings, all your that
Oh
everything.
wow.
So and I think they charged us about $40
Sweet.
for each sweep. So we were just like, you know what, yeah, that's more than fair.
Lube it up. Yeah.
So yeah, went and did 2 days, basically one evening and one morning, caught the sunrise,
Yeah.
and just had a massive
Epic.
party
Epic.
hanging out. Yeah. Oh God,
Sweet.
one of the most
Highlights.
magical, and I mean, like,
Yeah.
the pictures alone kind of tell the story, but like one of
Totally.
the
I
most
remember them. Yeah.
ridiculous things. And it was really special because I feel like a lot of people, like, and nothing wrong with it. It's just as cool going on a tour with like one of the SUVs,
Hmm.
but the fact that we had our own vehicle and people were able to
Yeah.
take turns
You
driving
got
the
to do it your
bus and
own
like
way. Yeah.
yeah. I got our so we carried a snowboard with us so we could go like dune boarding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I got that out, threw that out on the back of the bus. That dragged me around for a
Do a little
while.
wakeboarding.
Yeah, we had a little dance party on top of the bus. Like
Yeah, I
just
remember
I
those
mean,
those videos. Yeah.
the drone shots alone, man, were just oh.
I know, man.
Couldn't do it
That's
any better,
awesome.
but yeah.
Awesome. What else? I mean, obviously that's a highlight of Bolivia, but like how is the culture, the food, the people?
So it's great. It's one of those I feel I didn't realize it because this is actually my second time going to Bolivia, but I didn't realize, we've only ever really, and most people only ever see kind of a sliver of it because that whole, from like La Paz all the way, along, you're on this kind of ridge, and then that takes you out of the country into to Chile or to
Yeah.
Argentina. But if you go east side, then you start to
Yeah.
get into the Amazon side and the
Amazon.
jungle
Yeah.
side,
Yeah.
and it just looks so, I mean, the history that comes out from there is so
Yeah.
crazy and unique. It's one of those, we barely got a taste of any of it. And I think, next time in that area, that's definitely where we have to go next, because it's
We got
just
to give it some
so,
more time.
yeah, it's so unique. But I don't know, I feel like when you get to the mountains of Peru and then going through Bolivia, like down, that's when you really start getting uh oh, I don't want to say it wrong, but uh the culture, the ladies with the big dresses and the hats
Hmm.
that are really colorful, and they always have the
Hmm.
the, the big long pigtails.
Yeah.
It's not uh
Well,
not the
I mean, I don't know what the
what's
ladies
it
are
called? It's like,
called.
I don't want to say chicas. It's not the chica
Yeah.
culture. But it, it,
Yeah.
it has a specific name, and
Uh,
it's just gone off my head.
Yeah.
Being really, yeah, white boy about it. But anyway, yeah, I feel like that's when you really start getting all that kind of mountainous Andean
Yeah.
culture
Yeah.
that comes along with stuff, and it's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't want to take a stab at it either because I
Yeah,
could
yeah.
throw a couple of guesses out, but I want to
But
reserve the ignorance for my mind.
yeah, exactly. Same here. But yeah, and then just straight down into the Atacama Desert, and basically went over to the coast,
Hmm.
which that was really incredible.
Hmm.
We went to a lot of these old abandoned mining towns that
Hmm.
are kind of pseudo museums, but usually only have like one guy and a dog watching over the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is great though, because he normally, they don't have a lot going on. So when you ask, hey, can I park my bus up and camp
Like, wow.
in this
You
old
ever?
mining town? They're like, yeah, why not? Just
You guys are
the
our entertainment,
yeah.
so
So
that's
yeah, we
cool.
we got to do that, and
You
and
hit up
we got to go to a lot of really cool
Valparaiso and
archaeological environments. Sorry, what's up?
next Valparaiso and
Mm,
Viña del Mar.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to remember the national. We went to one of the national parks that's right on the coast. Um, and it has the original like there's it's an area where a lot of the indigenous Chilean culture still survive, still kind of
Still living, yeah.
has their own
Roots,
if it were, yeah, a lot of roots. um Long story short, we got to camp on a beach next to this family, and they invited us over for a barbecue.
yeah.
And they did it the real, like, well, as they explained to us, it's like the classic way. Basically, the fish that they would catch, they wouldn't gut them at all, they just cook them whole.
Yeah.
And so they had these two massive fish and a nice big chunk of beef, and they basically were just
Oof.
grilling it up. And as we're sitting
Oof.
around, having a few drinks
Some
and just kind of
pebre and
chilling.
some
Yeah, yeah, they a
what's
lot
the
a lot
bread
a lot of
called?
a lot of butter and a little bit of salt, and
Oh,
everybody's just taking turns picking off the
mm,
barbecue. And
so good.
Eh,
Reminds me of
that was
home.
special, man. That
Yeah,
was really special. And there was,
amazing.
of course, there was the grandma who's sitting there, that, once
La
the
abuelita.
the turn your turn came around, you better not say no, because she
Yeah.
you're gonna
What,
get
you don't
something.
like the food? You don't like it?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome, man.
This is our first time getting into Chile, and man, it really blew our socks off. It
Mhm.
was
It's a lovely country.
I yeah,
Yeah.
it's so, well, it was really unique as well, because it's so modern in a lot of certain senses,
Absolutely.
like
For a South
I
American
mean,
country, it's one of the most modern.
yeah, definitely. I mean, just the process of going through the border was so efficient. It was so clean.
Mhm.
Everything was uh, digitized for the most part.
Yeah.
Even out in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
because we did the one of the higher altitude
Mhm.
crossings going into the desert, and I mean, that shack is in the middle of nothing, and they had Wi-Fi. So
Yeah.
so when we were on there to go do all of our visas and
Visas
stuff
and
like
stuff.
that,
Yeah.
we just did it all. Everybody did it on your
Cool.
phone, and
Yeah.
so it really blew me away how just straightforward everything was. And but then yeah, and then just got to really experience for our first time of real Chilean culture. and
Nice.
and all this is before we even touch Patagonia at all,
Yeah.
which was really great. And I was blown away with how modern. well, yeah, Santiago was really bizarre. One, because it was big enough for us to be able to drive around with a bus
Yeah.
and not have any problems. But then also, there's so many shopping malls,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
huge shopping malls,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
Walmart was back. Like
Yeah.
it was so
You
weird.
guys were you guys did you guys have a day at Walmart or something? You're like, "Oh
Yeah,
my
it was.
God,
I
it's
forget
like home."
because it's a different name. It starts with a T, doesn't it? I forget what it's
Uh,
called,
mm.
but it has the same
Well, they have
Walmart
the jum
logos.
they have the jumbos. That's
Yeah,
what
the
I
jumbos was
remember.
actually I prefer the jumbos. If we could go to those, we would go to those instead. But yeah, no, it was just so weird going back and having the great value, items again,
Oh, right, right.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it was really just so weird. But no, we mostly just lived off of seafood when we were in
Yeah.
Chile the whole time.
Well,
Like,
it's a
I mean,
coastal city
ceviche
country,
was so
so yeah.
phenomenal and just
Yeah.
oh yeah, it is killer.
Awesome.
I think I got kind of addicted to fish being out
The
there because
seafood,
since I've
yeah.
been back to Europe, I think every other
Yeah.
day I'm kind of like I just want fish, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, you're not in a terrible place for seafood. It's like I try and eat local, like that's kind of my style. And so if I'm like in the middle of like inland landlocked country, I wouldn't even think about seafood. But
Mhm.
if I'm on the coast, it's like I'm definitely considering it every time I go for a protein, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, but yeah, tons of options. Yeah, and that was the other thing with Chile. We never really got to experience the food there, but went to a couple of kind of old school classic places, restaurants in Chile, and it was really
Hmm.
blown away with. I mean, first of all, the portion sizes, Jesus Christ,
Yeah. Yeah, they like to eat. They like to
massive.
eat. My favorite thing
But
is the pevre. Do you remember pevre? It's like
yes,
this like
yes,
salt. It's like this salsa that's always on the table, and you just like
yeah,
dunk your bread in it, cover it in
just
tomato
at
juice.
everything.
It's
I honestly, we rarely would get our main meal by the time before we could finish.
You'd be
Like that
full
was
by the
all
time.
gone by the time
Yeah,
the actual meal would come in.
yeah.
But yeah, I had a
So
lot of, and then yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
sorry, good.
No, 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 you go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say from there moving on south is when we started getting into more of the beef territory,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
food kind of changed quite a bit again.
How did you do so you said you went back and forth between Chile and Argentina a couple times, or?
Yeah, so we went down. It's one of those. I need to look at a map to really
Mhm,
kind of like set it up. But we basically went down to Santiago, and then we went. I'm trying to remember the name of. It's one of the bigger lakes
mhm.
out in the
In the
mountains
mountains.
on the Chilean side of the Patagonia range.
Yeah.
Uh,
Is it like a
it's
reservoir?
No, I don't think so. Because
Okay.
we had to take the Highway 7. It's quite notorious and it's completely unpaved, and we took quite a beating doing that as well.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it. Oh, also it's really famous for its stone sculptures. Has these massive like marble stones that have just been kind of eaten away by the water
Mm,
throughout the years. Oh, it's killing me that
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
bringing this up right away. But yeah, basically just started touching uh just barely started touching the not fjords but the different waterways going down to southern Patagonia. We went to Patagonia National Park, the
Mhm,
actual reserve
mhm.
that on the
So
Chilean side.
you went all the way down Chile down to Patagonia and then went to Argentina, or did you cross
Yes,
any
yeah,
other
yeah,
time?
and
Okay.
then cut over. I'm
Okay.
just trying to figure out. I think this is it. Uh, yes, there we go. We went down to was it Largo Grail Carrera, or
Mhm.
I'm gonna kill it with the name.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, the border town that's on there is Chile Chico,
Okay.
which is kind of pseudo famous for overlanders because it's like the last
The last
entrance
stop, yeah,
into
into
yeah
Argentina.
like there's no real way through the hills from there, and then
Yeah.
that's when we're kind of forced to get into uh the Argentinian side.
Hmm.
and then you have to get onto the Highway 40, which is paved, not paved, all the way down to El Calafate, which is one of the the bigger glaciers that was there. But before we left, of course, we had to romp all around Patagonia and spend a lot of time uh, hitting all the different regions out there, and it was some of the most. I mean, I've lived quite a few years in Sierra Nevadas throughout California, and that will always be a really special place in my heart, one of my favorite places in the world.
Awesome.
But Patagonia is just a
It's
different
epic.
monster.
It's epic.
Yeah, it's a and the fact that it's there's just so few people out there.
Yeah.
It's so just untouched by man is adds a new little level uh to its kind of
Yeah.
speciality. But that's when the bus really started to suffer because
Yeah.
the roads were just
It
so
was
they're all
starting to get rough.
washboards.
Yeah.
And
And getting
yeah, I
washed
mean,
out
like,
sometimes too. Sometimes bridges
yeah,
just disappear there.
just gone. And it was funny, like, trying to hit some, because we had to take a few of the ferries going across the
Hmm.
waterways. Sometimes they showed up, sometimes they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to book ahead of time, sometimes you just get
Yeah.
lucky, like,
Yeah.
but the wild camping out there,
Yeah.
phenomenal.
It's beautiful.
It was just, yeah,
Lots of
best camping.
cowboys.
Yeah, well, actually, we met a lot of seasonal kids. So we met a
Oh,
lot of
really?
we met a couple of rafties out there.
Okay.
We met quite a few guys who run boats on the lakes and
Okay.
do
Cool.
stuff, and so they were all well, I want
Obviously,
to say our age,
welcoming.
but they were a little bit younger, probably. They're probably about
Oh, really?
25 to 30. But
Mm.
they were, yeah, they were just the coolest kids, all out there to work a great season, and they actually invited us back to one of the seasonal workers houses for some beers one night, and so we got to hang out with a few of the locals,
Do it
and
up local style. Sweet.
yeah, just had a really awesome time,
That's nice.
yeah, yeah, loved it to death.
Did you
And
go to Villarrica?
no, I don't think
This
we
is
did.
like volcano, another one of those kind of volcano
Yeah, no,
towns.
yeah, that was one of the ones, unfortunately, that we just for time, we
Hmm.
kind of had to miss out on. Yeah, basically from the Patagonia National Park, we ducked into Argentina, and then from there we went to Torres del Paine,
Hmm.
the big
The big,
fire mountains.
yeah.
Yeah, so that was the big one that we hit on the Argentinian side of
Hmm.
Patagonia.
So you
The
didn't
most
see
famous
that
one, I
much
should say.
Argentina then. You gave like Chile a lot of precedence.
Yeah, yeah, it was interesting for us, on a lot of different levels, because a lot of the new Pan American Highway was built through
Was
there. Of
through
course, there's
there.
the old original, but we'd actually driven that back in 2017.
Hmm.
And there was a big portion of it that wasn't paved, but it had been paved since then. And I mean, once you kind of get out of the mountain range, when you're driving down by Chile, it's just flat farmland for
Yeah.
ages and ages and
Yeah.
ages.
Yeah.
So, if we wanted to follow the road exactly, yeah, that would have been the case. But then, in Chile, there was like all the roads going down to, the Patagonia National Reserve, for example. None of those roads existed back in the day.
Before.
So that was
Yeah.
something that we thought it was really important to go explore, and it's kind of become the new Pan American Highway in a sense, because a lot of people, they don't feel like they can miss that side of Patagonia. So
Yeah.
as far as a lot of overlanders go, they'll tend to go through Chile and then go into Argentina afterwards.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and then from that point on, the Torres del Paine, and then yeah, basically just did the crossover into
Into the last
did
stop.
the jump around. We entered back into Chile
Oh,
again,
you had to do a couple back and forth.
from a town called uh Caro Castillo,
Okay.
which is kind of just on the border. Um, and oh, no, that wasn't the right one. Oh, what am I thinking of? Basically, we take the Highway 40 all the way down until it hits the water again, and then skirt through Chile once more until we get to the kind of land bridge section
Hmm.
that you have to take the ferry across. I think it's Sombrero, I think is the name of or no, it's on the Magellan Strait basically. To cross the
Okay,
Magellan Strait, we had
cool.
to hit that portion. But yeah, from there
So you were
crossed
quite
over and
you did go quite south on the Chilean side. I thought you would have crossed over before all that. Like, because it
so well
seems like part
there
of
is
that part of the continent is like sinking into the sea. You know, there's sometimes where
yes, yeah,
entire
and that's the
towns
thing
like
they're saying.
disappear.
Yeah, they're saying you'll never see it again. So we didn't we were far. If you look at it from the map, like we were pretty far inland because we were on
Hmm.
what's Highway 9. So basically, we're kind of following the Argentina-Chilean border,
Hmm.
but we were just doing it through Chile,
Okay.
just because it was a little bit more direct for us,
Yeah.
and just a little bit easier to kind of work through,
Hmm.
um, and then uh, and then also Argentina didn't really like the bus.
No.
Or at least the first border we checked into, they actually denied us
Oh,
as
really?
when we tried to get in. Yeah,
Interesting.
we had to turn around. That's the first and only border we had that denied
Wow.
us. They didn't want to accept that it was a Casa Rodante. They're like, no, it's a commercial
School
bus. And
bus. Oh
I
no.
kept kind of pointing to him. I was like, it says Casa Rodante on on
Yeah.
everything. Like it's you know
Yeah.
it's a private vehicle. And they kind of kept changing their story of whether it was because it was a commercial. They thought it was a commercial bus, or
Did you
we had
show
too
them the
many
toilet?
seats,
You're like, we have a
or
toilet.
whatever. Well, at this point, we had gotten rid of the toilet, but well, that was the
Oh,
problem. I couldn't
see?
even get him. I couldn't even get him on the bus. I was like, "Come look, we've got bunks, we've got beds, like
Yeah.
we've got a kitchen in there.
Yeah.
Like, this obviously isn't a commercial venture kind of thing." And they just weren't really interested. So yeah, they turned us away. It was really funny because the Chilean border guards, they were just like, "Why are you back?" And we just told them, "Oh, that denied." And they were like, "Oh, Argentina," like.
Uh,
But yeah, they,
classic.
they gave us they gave us like a list of like things we had to do. One of them, we had to get like an international insurance. The
Okay.
other one, they said, oh well, they wrote down. They said, well, you can only have so many seatbelts. So that night we went back into Chile and we disconnected a ton of the seatbelts,
Huh.
turned some of the other seats into beds. And
Okay.
then we took out. They said you could only have like basically they really liked the number 9 for some reason. So basically they
Okay.
focused on 9 seatbelts, 9 passengers. So, and we had 11 people at the time. So
So you
we
had to
took
walk
three
across with
people
two? Yeah.
to go walk across, and we basically we were like, okay, we're just going to get into Argentina. We'll go immediately to the local police department and we'll try and figure out how to do it from there.
Hmm.
So the game plan kind of worked. The bus got in, despite the woman who denied us before being really grumpy about it.
Hmm.
And then our hitchhikers came up at the end, and they managed to get our poor Belgian me, because they were saying her passport was too short on
Yeah,
pages,
you need six
and
months.
that
You need
she
six
wasn't
months
out. Yeah, it was
placement.
this whole kerfuffle. So they denied her,
Huh.
and then she had to go back to Santiago and this whole thing, and
Oh,
talk to the
goodness.
Argentinian consulate. And we, of course, we wanted to get her back because she had been on the whole trip, so we didn't want to carry on without her. But to make a long story really short, basically she discussed it with the Argentinian consulate. They were like, there was a mistake made. This shouldn't have happened. Everything should
Hmm.
be all good. She got
Just somebody
passport
was
redone.
crabby Dave.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
that
And then sent it
sucks.
through. And that was the last problem we had. Every other Argentina
Yeah.
border was pretty good from that point on.
Yeah. They were just
But
envious. They're like, I'm sitting here and you guys are driving the Pan
well, there's the
American.
thing. So what was really ironic about it was afterwards we went to the police station to go ask them, like, hey, what do we, because we want to be legal, right? Like, we're not trying to fuck
Mhm. Yeah,
around in
yeah,
people's countries. We want to
totally.
we want to be legit.
Yeah.
And
It's
we
like,
asked them,
yeah.
like, hey, what do we do? And they're like, well, how many seats do you have? And we were like, 15. And they were like, okay, well, that's how many, as long as you have seatbelts for all of them, that's totally legal. You can
Yeah.
have it. We were like, okay, well, do you have like a piece of paper or something that like says that we can kind of show to borders? Because we explained to them, we were turned away. And they were like, oh, sure. And then like the head of police there just wrote a thing, was just like, yeah, these guys are
Nice.
legit. This is all cool. And then we got scared
Wicked.
again when we went to go stay in a hostel, and we were looking around for it, and a cop pulls up behind us, puts his lights on, pulls us over. And so I'm kind of like, oh shit, is this going to be an issue? And he goes like, hey, are you guys staying over at hostel such and such? And we were like, yeah. And he's like, okay, it's really hard to find. Just follow me. I'll take you there.
Hey.
And
Nice.
yeah, they were great. They were just, yeah,
Yeah.
we had the best time afterwards.
So, I
But
mean, I have to ask, especially since it was the last stop. How was the food in Argentina? Did you
So
just meatitarian it up? Just
it
like
was just yeah, it was meatitarian the whole way through. I'm not gonna lie, my kidneys were starting to back up. I think at the end of it, I just remember really well. We
Oh
went to one
man,
dinner,
it hurts my
and
cheeks thinking about my
I had
time in Argentina.
so much beef. I was just like I just put like I got halfway through the steak, and I was like, I
Oh,
I,
did you
I
go to
think I'm
like
gonna die if I keep doing.
did you go to like the Argentinian style where they come to the table with the sword and they just like have eight
Unfortunately,
kinds of
no.
meats? No.
No, we didn't get to one of those, but we did do
Oh,
the lamb, the crucified
okay.
lamb thing where
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
do
The
the
Patagonian
big blow.
style. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a
we did
Patagonian spit. It's called.
yeah, the Patagonian spit. Yeah. I just like freaking out all the vegetarians for being like, "Yeah, they have
Yeah,
this really cultural thing where
bro.
they take a lamb, they crucify it."
My cousin in Chile. He's got a company called El Asador. Shout out El Asador. And that's what they do is they one time I went there for like the national holiday and I had to watch him prepare it and he's got like a hacksaw and he's like cutting it
He's just
in
going to
half like
town.
straight down the middle and then and I was just like I am not in Canada anymore.
Yeah, yeah, man.
But it
Yeah.
was delicious
It was
and he made sure that my plate was full. I got a full lamb's leg on my plate, He's just like,
yeah.
this is for you, big guy. And I was like, yes, I'm gonna eat
Yeah,
it
it's one thing
all.
you can't say they're stingy down there. That's for damn sure.
Oh man. Well,
Yeah.
they want you to experience it like to the fullest, right? So
Yeah. Yeah,
so
we definitely got all that covered.
what was the final stop in Argentina that was like, okay,
So
we gotta turn around?
Ushuaia is really famous for being kind of like the furthest southern major city,
Mhm.
like in the world for the most part,
Yeah,
and it's really famous for overlanders to kind of complete it, either start at or finish at, kind of thing.
yeah.
So we knew we wanted to finish it there, but we were actually looking at Google Maps, and we noticed through one of the national parks that's like right next to it, uh, that it actually you can that's like there is a road that actually goes and it goes straight to the ocean. So we followed that through, and sure enough, when we get to the end of that, there's a big placard that basically says how far it is from Alaska,
Amazing.
and like the distance that you have. And so yeah, we got the
And so that
bus in
was your
front of there, and yeah, had a big picture in
pose.
front of that,
Yeah,
and got yeah, we got to take a boat out to go see some of the local sea life, and kind of experience a little bit of
amazing.
the not Cape Horn itself, but
Hmm.
out into the channel a little bit,
Hmm.
and yeah, after basically 8.5 months being on the road, it was
Awesome.
pretty epic to make it down there, and pretty
Totally.
surreal. It took a really long time for it to
Were you
kind of kick in
elated?
that.
Were you like kind of like
Yeah, yeah, it
on the
was.
bottom of the world, so to speak?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just it's this the whole bus idea was pretty much just a pipe dream for like the longest time, and
Yeah.
then like I said, when we met Nick, he kind of made it happen with being able to register the bus legally and have a
Hmm.
place to work on it. It all turned around really fast, from planning it to executing it.
Hmm.
Basically we had 1 year of planning, 1 year of driving,
Yeah.
so basically 2 years, 2 year long project, and then to make it to the end, it was
Yeah.
pretty wild, and
Did you
yeah,
did
I
you
cried a little bit.
I can imagine it being really emotional. Like that's something that not a lot of people have done in their lives, Like there's probably thousands, but like that's still a very thin slice of humanity, and it's
Yeah.
something to be super proud of. How did you guys do the math of this, like the spend, the cost?
So I think it definitely varies quite greatly from person to person as you go through. Obviously, booze is a huge
It was
huge
hard to do the
difference.
math. You guys weren't
Yeah.
accountants on the way?
No, well, so we did kind of do the calculation, and essentially for like the cost of like having the bus on its own, and then I'd say for like food and drink and stuff like that, probably say it would average in between, depending on how thrifty or not you were, from
Hmm.
around probably about 10 to 15,000, maybe a bit more if you were a bit more
Total?
rambunctious as it would go. for the entirety of the
Mhm.
8-month process.
What
um,
if you took out the spend
per person.
for it's 15,000 per person.
That's what I'd probably say. But I mean, you could make it much closer to 10.
Okay.
But I just want to
That's
give
with
that
food.
barrier
Yeah,
in
yeah.
casing you're doing that. Yeah, that's with everything. That's everything.
That's
That's
everything.
that's all the flights, to get
Oh, okay. Okay.
bouncing back and forth with all
Yeah.
the problems in Patagonia,
Yeah.
all the fixing of the bus,
Wow. So you
yeah,
10
and again,
10
this is a
times
huge
15?
guesstimate.
10 times 15 is it costs you over 100K, you think?
Well, yeah, we didn't have 15 on the whole
Well, I
trip.
mean
So this,
15K times 10 people. I gave you a little bit less is what the math I did.
yeah.
Because you
Now,
said
now
that
I'm
you had
now I'm
to
having to be careful about the number.
you lost. Well, yeah, I'm curious because obviously the next thing is like how do you turn this awesome experience into something that you can like replicate, right? How do you productize it? How do you make it such that you can
Well,
package it
to be
down
honest,
into like a monthly
yeah.
flat fee? Like if it's 15K, 8 months, 15 divided by 8 is about 2,000 per month. If you
So
made it
what we did
2,500 or
for the trip
3,000 a month, is that something that is
for so
kind of
if you
conceivable?
were coming on for like a month, we were asking people for 1,800 for the
Okay.
month.
Hmm.
Or
And that's
1,000 or 15, one of the two.
That's without the spend of food and drink and
Yeah,
experiences
that's
and
that's your spot on the bus. That's the if
mhm,
we want to go for accommodation or something like that, that'll be different.
mhm,
But yeah, that's all
mhm,
fuel. That's for any repairs or anything like that. Like that's being
mhm.
taken care of. It's not not dipping. Basically your spot and everything we do on
Yeah,
there.
cool.
Um, but because we did the like group cooks and stuff like that, food was really cheap
Yeah,
because like for I don't know, going to like the local grocery stores and coming back out. I mean, we're spending maximum like $60 on a
yeah.
meal that we're
For
spreading out in between
for
15
everybody. Yeah,
people.
yeah,
Like so it really brings the cost down on stuff. I mean,
totally.
sometimes we get lucky enough we walk away, it's $20, so yeah, meals on average like per day would probably be in anywhere between like 3 to 5 to 6 per day or something like
Yeah,
that.
cool.
But yeah, honestly, we never really set out to have this be kind of a regular thing. It was more, kind of get down. We love the idea of like maybe having it uh go in a circle, like go
Yeah,
down, come
exactly.
back
Just
up.
keep the bus going, like
Yeah, exactly. And we did find a group of people, or like there was three girls who were interested in taking the bus over and trying to bring it
mhm,
back up, but they ended up falling through sadly.
yeah.
And yeah, as we got kind of to the end of the trip, like funds were pretty low. We didn't lose out on anything, but like we were getting down to it. Looking into shipping it to Europe was not happening.
Yeah,
Not to
totally.
mention the second it gets on European soil, we can't drive the bus anymore because it's all totally different licenses and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so it was one of those. It was kind of like, okay, well, either we find a really good home for the bus, or we find somebody who can take it back up. And unfortunately, we just in the time
Yeah.
frame that we were going on, we just couldn't find anybody
Hmm.
who's in the right ability
Yeah.
to do it. I mean, honestly, we
Yeah.
would have just given them the bus for free, basically, if
Yeah.
they were happy to take it back up. But we just didn't find it. And anyway, so
Yeah.
we ended up
So you
finding a really awesome guy in Santiago who's running
cool.
an overlanding business. Basically, if you come down, you want to go see Patagonia or anywhere, you want to go travel Argentina or anywhere else in South America.
He'll take you in the bus?
He's well, he'll no. Basically he's trying to build a kind of like an overland base so people can show up and build their vehicle there, or buy a
Okay.
vehicle and build it up there, have a shop for him. And so he's just starting out. He's just bought this piece of land, and basically he was looking for a bunkhouse
Hmm.
for him and his family to live in while
Yeah.
they build the main building and the main house
What's
and the main
his
barn.
what's his business? Can you want to do a shout out?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely want to do shout out. It's just the names are what are the things that kill me. Over Andes, that's what it is. Yeah, over
Over
Andes.
Andes? Over
is the
Indies.cl.
I think so. Let me just look it up real quick. But yeah, he was just the coolest guy. And like I said, he's just starting his family. He's just starting his business, and basically the way he kind of, we kind of talked about the idea of it for a little bit.
Hmm.
About him taking it over, and so we showed up for him to kind of have a look at the bus, and he just kind of walked on board, and the first thing he did is he looked at the roof,
He's like,
and
oh, I'm in
he
love.
saw all
All
the
the
signatures, and
signatures. Yeah.
he was like, this is never changing. He's like, this
Yeah.
is only going to be added on to
It
for
has
everybody who comes onto the bus,
it has its own
and that
life
was my
now.
kind of like,
Yeah.
this is my
This is the
guy. So
guy. This is the guy.
yeah,
Sweet.
yeah. And also his son like hopped on to the
Yeah.
driver's seat and kind of was
Well,
asking
I
me like where
hope
the stop sign what was, and like all the he knew the
I
bus already, so
sweet.
it just worked
I
kind of perfectly.
I
and
hope
and
that
so
one day I get to put my signature in it.
yeah, so that's the thing. Like he's trying to turn it into a bit of a bunkhouse for people who want to work on their overlanding rigs down
Yeah.
there. And so he was saying anybody who's got connections with Convoy is welcome to go and
Yeah.
stay in it,
Cool.
when it's down there. So that was yeah.
So this your second trip? Like you guys did a Europe trip too, right?
Yeah, so we've this is our for global convoy trips, we've done this is our 11th expedition.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so and also the biggest one by far.
Yeah.
Really epic. The first starter trip and the time that we went through Central South America last time was when we did around the world trip. So all the trips we try to do is basically we try to come up with a really ridiculous idea, and we want to see if we can pull it off. And what we do is we float the idea out to people, see if people would be interested. We make a guesstimate of what the costs would be, to make it more realistic. And then if we get people on board, then we'll try and execute it.
Mhm.
And kind of the way that we all met was on this round the world trip, where we basically bought a car for 75 pounds and another car for 150 pounds. So basically 100, 200 bucks, and wanted to see how far it would drive. And we ended up circumferencing the earth.
Sick.
And that was the reason why we went through on the first time. But they were two very small, shitty British cars. So coming through with a bus was a bit
Uh-huh.
of a different experience.
Well,
And
that's epic, bro. That's epic.
yeah,
Well, maybe we don't have time to talk about the other 10, but I'm
yeah,
curious,
exactly.
do you have a plan for the next one? Are you guys kind of thinking about something
Well,
or
we're thinking the only way we could really top this off is by getting a double decker and doing a double decker trip, preferably around the world. But
no?
maybe this is something that we can make more
Just
for
do a
you know.
continental lap, man. If you can just get them kind of like intersecting at like the right places and you can just hop on, hop off of one and
Yeah,
just do like a short little flight or something between like Italy and Cairo or something, or Rome and
yeah,
Cairo,
yeah.
for example.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and especially with now that we know, now that Starlink is kind of tried and true,
Exactly.
maybe we
Yeah.
could slap
That's
one of
big.
those on a double decker and get more
That's
remote
epic,
workers on
bro.
board.
That's epic. So what?
Yeah.
You flew out of Santiago back to UK or?
Yeah, well, yeah, we had a convoluted way. I wanted to get back to the States and see some more family and friends because
Okay.
I've been living in the UK for about 7 years now, and
Yeah.
well, UK and Europe. So it's been a while since I've been back in California. I had time to really
Mhm.
spend time with family and hang out there. So did that, and got to bounce around a little bit, see some friends, and then
Sweet.
yeah, back over here, back on planning for the next voyage,
Global
whatever it is.
Convoy. So yeah, I
Yeah.
saw you were at a festival. What was that was for the Global Convoy? You had a little booth or something, or
Yeah, so that was the Armchair Adventure Festival,
right?
which is actually ran by two guys who are also super rad. They call themselves the sidecar guys, and basically they
Okay.
drove a scooter and sidecar that they had custom built. They circumferenced the Earth doing that, which was insane. But yeah, they started just as a Zoom festival in COVID, and it just kind of
Okay.
expanded, and it's basically
Awesome.
a great place for people who've just done some epic stuff,
Travelers. Yeah.
or just have like a really cool story to tell, to kind of all meet up and have a few drinks and kind of chat about it and present their expeditions and
Adventures.
things like
Yeah.
that. And so yeah, we were lucky
Sweet.
that they were the first place we got to go to kind of present the bus and talk about what we're doing. And we're hoping we'll get to we're working on a small documentary we're trying to find as many people as we can get involved for it, because obviously we want to make we're gonna make it regardless, but we want it to be as big and as bad as possible. So we're hoping to get a few producers on board
Sweet.
to try and get a little bit of extra funding for a few cinematic quirks and things like that
Yeah.
to get the word out. But
Sweet, man.
yeah,
It's awesome. You did something awesome. And the fact that you organized it
thank
all
you.
by yourself and you just executed it, like
I
it's
can't take credit for myself. I mean, it's
well,
the
I
whole
mean,
team.
no,
So
I know there was a group of you, but you didn't like you guys took on that responsibility,
yeah,
and
yeah. If it
and
wasn't for
and
Becca and Max, my partners, and then our friend Nick, like, there's no way we
yeah.
would have gotten off the
No, for
ground.
sure. It's not a one
And
man
like the
show. I
crew
don't
we
mean
had was,
just you, amigo. Yeah. That's awesome.
but
So next stop is Bulgaria. You gonna go for the Nomad Fest or what's your did you guys
just
buy
going to be
in?
back home, really.
Yeah. You
Just
feel
going
like
back
it's
to,
home?
yeah, definitely. Just go back to be
Yeah.
in the remote work community and be see some old friends
Did you guys
and
get an apartment in Smolyan?
yeah. So we because we went there pretty much right after COVID,
Hmm.
and so it was for Bansko, Bulgaria. That was I think kind of its I guess really when
Where
it
it
was just
started,
starting to
kind
kind
of.
of explode. And
Yeah.
we got really lucky. We found a place for it's like 2 minute walk from the Peast, and
Yeah.
there it's a one bedroom they were selling for 27,000, and that's just
Nice.
what we happen to have in our savings. So
Sweet.
we were just like, yeah, hopping on
Let's
that. And so
go.
now that's home base for us.
Awesome, man.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
we love it there.
Well,
Yeah. Looking forward
thanks
to
so
doing
much
shot put salad.
for yeah, oh my God, yeah. I've been making them, it's just not the same without that cheese, You have
Yeah,
to
you
have
gotta.
the
It's
white
all about the
cheese.
cheese.
So for years I didn't have dairy in my life until I lived in Bulgaria, and then yogurt's like a regular thing now, and every day kind of like a couple tablespoons at least. I'll put it on something or next to something. And yeah, I definitely love the food culture there.
Yeah, it's one of our favorites.
Cool, man. So why don't you drop down your socials, your website, just
Yeah, so we're pretty basic across the board. We're just globalconvoy.com is our website, and then you can find us Global Convoy on YouTube, Global Convoy Instagram, TikTok. We also have we started a new TikTok page because we weren't really good about it going along the whole trip, and we had a lot of friends kind of dog us for being not so great at posting regularly. So we
yeah.
started a new TikTok page called Stacy's Mom. It's basically going from the build of the bus all the way through the
Okay.
whole journey.
Cool.
We're posting every day.
Awesome.
So that's one thing we have
That's the
going
name
on.
of the
But
bus. The name of the bus was
yeah,
Stacy's
Stacy's
mom.
mom. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so just quick story with that one. So the original car that was following us along was a Malibu, Chevy Malibu. And
Hmm.
somebody made the link between that and The Simpsons of
Stacy's
Malibu
mom has
Stacy.
got it
Yeah.
going
And
on.
then of course the
It's
bus
all
became
that I
Stacy's mom.
wanted. I think it took
The
so
song was played
long.
again and again.
Oh,
But yeah,
Stacy,
so
can't you see? You're not the girl for me. Well, I haven't heard that
but
song
yeah,
in a long time, but it's
that's
in
the
there.
one.
Awesome,
That's
brother.
so yeah, that's the bus's official name is Stacy's mom.
Sweet, bro. Well, thanks so much for joining and telling me your story. I've obviously been watching and I'm super curious about all the ins and outs and the favorite spots because there's a lot of places you guys went that I would have loved to join you at, so
Yeah.
I appreciate
Well,
you
thanks for
taking
having
the
me,
time
man.
to chat about it. Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
talk soon
Sounds good.
again about
Yeah,
the
but
other 10 the other 10 global convoys and the next one if
yeah,
when
hopefully
you
next
when
one. Hopefully the
when
next one.
when your documentary comes out, maybe we should have another little powwow.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Okay, cool, amigo.
Thanks again,
Thanks
man.
so much. Have a great week. Happy Monday, and yeah, we'll talk soon.
All right, bud. Yeah, cheers.
Well, that was Joel from Global Convoy. That was a couple hours of journey and adventure. I really appreciate Joel for taking the time to chat with me this morning. And I hope that in the coming weeks we have a few guests from my communities to listen to their stories and hear what drives and motivates them. If you think you'd like to share your story, if you're a fractional leader, if you're a digital nomad, if you're a solopreneur, please feel free to follow this podcast because I'm making it for you guys. Get into my DMs. Would love to talk to you and hear about what motivates you, what drives you, what your passions are, your mission is. And I hope to talk to you soon. Stay tuned.